chocolate factory, like the flipped on its head,
Sure.
what would things be made out of?
Cheese curd bushes,
Okay.
right? So you can just pick cheese curds off the cheese curd bush.
Are cheese curds more of a fruit?
Moving Wisconsin forward, one joke at a time. This is Kristen Bry with As Goes Wisconsin.
Yada, yada, yada. Hello, Wisconsin!
Hello, Wisconsin. Hello, Waukesha. Hello, Wisconsin Rapids. Hello, Amory, Wausau, Richland Center, Madison tonight. If you're streaming, if you're listening later. And good morning, Jane Matnair.
Good morning, Kristen Bry. How are you?
I'm just great. I'm wearing some a bright pink blazer.
Yeah.
Bringing the sunshine since there is none today.
Very spring-like.
Very spring-like, but I have to film some stuff, and I felt like the pink really makes me pop. So we're going with that.
Poppy pink.
Well, today I am very excited for today's show because at noon, sometimes a lot of the reporting or the editorializing that we do on the show is based off of things that we're reading, things that other reporters are covering, and then we thankfully get to leverage the very great local reporting that we have across our newspapers and WPR and Fox 6 and a lot of really talented journalists.
Yes.
But then sometimes, as we are a growing show on a growing network, we have stories that come directly to us. And this week, not even this week, in the last couple of days, I've been contacted by a lot of people in my DMs, which stands for direct messages. I think I said that to my mom the other day. She's like, "What's a DM?" It's like, okay.
Good. See, then I don't feel bad not knowing what ping means.
What ping means. Yeah. And of sending me screenshots, sending me emails, of what happened last night at the Waukesha School Board, which was basically, so far as I understand it, they rushed a vote on a proposal titled the Bill of Rights, Parental Transparency.
Yep.
And also a vote on a dress code for teachers. And we'll get into the nuance at noon of what was in both of these things, both of these proposals and these votes. But really what is glaring to me is how fast it happened. Because it sounds like this had not been discussed at previous school board meetings. Although I guess the president of the school board had said he alluded to it, or he or she, I don't even know, that they alluded to it in meetings, which is different than having it be a line item in the agenda.
Considerably different.
And it was only put on yesterday's agenda last week, the end of last week, not giving a ton of time for people to know about it and be aware of what was happening. And since we are in Waukesha, seemed like a pretty apt thing to bring to light. And so Sarah Harrison, who's been on the show before when she was running for state rep, she's also run for Waukesha School District School Board. She's going to join us at noon to talk more about what happened last night. And we are welcoming you in the noon hour to join the conversation about that, because I think what I have learned since moving back to Wisconsin and in the rise of school boards starting to be ground zero for a lot of these fights, that, when it comes to kids, people get very protective and very riled up for good reason. It's your kids. But this seems like it goes to the conversation we were saying yesterday when Greg was here of the Great Wolf Lodge symposium that was happening and some of the influence of this ideology on school boards, when in reality, as far as I understand, school boards is, when it comes to like local municipality stuff, like keeping the lights on, right? Like so much of the rubber hitting the road for some of these positions is you can't just like squawk about pie in the sky policy like some other elected officials can and not actually get anything done. Like This is a position where things actually have to get done. Budgets have to be made.
Yes.
Hires have to happen. And Waukesha was already in a ton of trouble, as a lot of districts are across Wisconsin, of not having enough teachers. So I think this is going to be a really great conversation. I don't think it's going to be the last conversation we have about this, but that is going to be happening in the noon hour. And so we welcome you to join that conversation when we talk about it. But in this hour, we're going to do some headlines. And so, there's a Republican election commissioner who was proud of how low turnout was in Milwaukee. So we're going to talk about that. Going to talk about kind of some more shared revenue discussions that are happening as the debate over the budget. This is not really news, but Robin Voss said there's no pathway to recreational marijuana.
What a shocker.
And I just want to touch on a little bit, because I don't have a lot of skin in this debate, but a lot of people seem very upset about the Milwaukee Public Museum not moving the streets of old Milwaukee.
It's a big thing.
It's a big thing.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about that a little bit. But to start off today, I never want to give Illinois credit for anything. I don't. It's
Is that wrong?
Which is kind of a joke, because it's a fun hanging fruit rivalry of the Fibs and Illinois and their bad
Illinoisans.
drivers, and they use us as their vacation grounds and whatever. But I have to say, this law that Governor Pritzker just signed into law this week, probably never going to happen here, but I wish that it would. So if you missed it, earlier this week, Governor J.B. Pritzker signed a bill banning the sale and distribution of assault weapons and high-capacity magazines in the state of Illinois. This obviously comes 6 months after a gunman who legally purchased an AR-15 style gun killed 7 people at an Independence Day parade in the Chicago suburb of Highland Park. And so now Illinois joins 8 other states and Washington, D.C. in passing such a measure. And Pritzker promised to keep fighting to ensure that future generations only hear about massacres in their textbooks, not in the news. And as you can imagine, gun rights advocates said, see you in court.
I'm sure.
And more than that, which I actually think is a more reasonable measure that I would like to think that people in Wisconsin could get on board with, because I think in this state, banning any type of gun at this point, if it's not going to be a federal mandate, is not going to happen. But how they're in this law that they passed in Illinois, what they are saying is people who already own assault weapons, it's not like they're taking their guns.
No one's coming to your
knocking on
house.
the door and saying, you can't have this anymore. If you already own an assault weapon, you can keep them on your property, at gun ranges, and in hunting areas. And you have to register them with the Illinois State Police for tracking. I feel like that's very reasonable.
I think that's a good move.
I don't know why the second part, not the first part. I get it. I don't want gun rights people saying you're trying to take our guns. I would like that. I would love to ban AR-15s because I don't know why we need them. But I'm also not a gun person. But for the people who do want to have them, why should you not have to register them? Should there not be limitations on where you can legally have them? Like not being able to just have them in your car?
Or take it into Subway?
Or yes. And so again, don't always love giving Illinois credit, but this is something that I wish we could do here.
Do you know, is Pritzker popular?
I'm a Democrat.
Right.
I forgot. I mean, he was just up for a re-election. I don't know. We could look up and see how
much he won
by, which is interesting. I just think it was Greg Bach, friend of the show, co-host on Wednesdays. He tweeted out yesterday, hey, Chicago friends, who are you liking most for mayor, and how quickly will you hate them as soon as you elect them? Because Lori Lightfoot is up for re-election this year, and she's someone who, was elected when she actually made it through the very competitive primary, won in a landslide, and I think almost immediately was hated.
Pretty much.
Because, heavy is the head that wears the crown in a lot of these places, especially our cities where you're the mayor of a city that has a larger population than like most of our states, right?
Yeah.
Chicago, New York, LA, these are places that if we looked on the population maps, I mean, I think that the greater Chicago area, I think is bigger than the entire state of Wisconsin.
Is it really?
I'm pretty sure not just the city, but the greater,
Sure.
the suburbs and everything is like 9 million people.
Wow.
And Wisconsin's not even 6. So, it's a different level of responsibility. It's a different level of interests at play when you talk about these big cities and being the mayor of them. But for Pritzker, he's popular enough that he got elected again.
True.
I mean, he is a billionaire. He is of the family that owns, well, one of many things that they own is the Hyatt.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yes.
Oh.
And so he is one of the biggest donors to Wisconsin politics, actually, which feels weird. Feels weird to have an elected official of our state, the state below us, be one of the largest donors to Democratic politicians and campaigns in Wisconsin.
He wants allies to the north.
Yeah. It feels like that shouldn't happen. I don't know, but Citizens United, what do I know?
Corporations are people.
Well, he's not a corporation,
I know.
but it's just the funding and I don't know. But anyways, and that's all I would like. Just you have to register. I mean, really, if you should have to register all of your guns, but let's just start with the assault rifles. We get there. All right. Well, we're going to take our first break. Stick with us for more headlines after this. This is As Goes Wisconsin.
And I'd like to tell you what you can do with it too.
Up North News Radio is Wisconsin's new choice for progressive talk about important state issues, from the team that brings you the news through social media, newsletters, and here on the radio. I'm Pat Kreitlow. Join me weekday mornings from 6 to 8 a.m.
Hey there, fellow working class heroes. I'm Rick Smith, host of The Rick Smith Show, and we are now on the air in Waukesha, live weeknights 8 to 10 p.m. right here on WAUK 540 AM, 101 FM The Shaw. Turn on, tune in, and help us rebuild the American dream. Check out our website at thericksmithshow.com. The Rick Smith Show, where working people come to talk. Weeknights 8 to 10 p.m. right here on WAUK 540 AM, 101 FM The Shaw.
To protect his home and family from disaster, Steve used courage, wisdom, and his camera phone.
That should do it.
Way to go, Steve! By simply taking digital pictures of his family's important documents, Steve can always have them stored safely online, no matter when disaster strikes. Learn other simple ways to protect your home and family before a natural disaster at ready.gov. That's ready.gov. A message from FEMA and the Ad Council.
You are listening to your local Civic Media radio station on air. Thank you. Did you know we are always streaming on TuneIn and the Civic Media app too? And if you miss a show or game, find it wherever you get your podcasts or on our website, civicmedia.us.
Here's your updated forecast on the Shaw. A few flurries possible at times this afternoon, otherwise overcast. Daytime highs approaching 35, northerly winds 10 to 15 miles an hour. Chance for snow showers tonight, lows around 26. Cloudy skies, a blend of clouds and sun tomorrow. Chance of flurries, highs around 31. A dusting of snow tonight. For Civic Media, I'm meteorologist Eric Height. Currently, it's 34 degrees.
WAUK 540 AM, New Berlin's choice for news talk radio. Streaming 24/7 at WAUKradio.com.
I wanna be in the headlines. Anything to be in the headlines. Summer chance.
Well, welcome back to As Goes Wisconsin with Kristen Bry. We got Jane Matnair on the board. As always, you can join the conversation at 844-967-2789. Coming up at noon, we are going to be talking about what happened at the Waukesha School District Board school board meeting last night with Sarah Harrison. And even after she leaves, if there's enough people who want to keep talking about this, we will certainly keep talking about this because, as I can tell, this is a pretty charged issue, not only just for people who live in Waukesha and have kids who are who are in the Waukesha School District, but also I think across the state. This has not been this is not a new thing as far as culture ideology infiltrating school boards. At the same time, when a lot of the, what the rhetoric should be is increasing test scores, increasing graduation rates and stuff like that. But the focus being
pronouns
on the minority of people. And that's the thing that I don't, I do want to get to the other headlines because we are going to spend a lot of time on it. But the outsized attention that LGBTQ and specifically trans kids get
compared to their percentage of the population,
yes, is insane to me. Because I think there of each generation, people who identify as either non-binary or trans, the highest percentage is in young people. So, but it's still only 5%. So it's such a small proportion of students and young people, and they get such an outsized reaction in making rules for the exception. So anyways, I have opinions. I have thoughts.
There are thoughts.
And we will talk about it at noon. But I also have thoughts on this. I obviously lean a certain way that I think is obvious. I try to be fair. I try to acknowledge my own bias when it comes to reading stories. But I think where I fall squarely is I want everyone to be an informed voter. Even if you don't vote the same party as me or the same candidates as I do.
The more you know.
The more you know. And I am never going to celebrate less Republicans voting. But not Bob Spindell.
And he's on the Elections Commission.
Yes. Bob Spindell is the chairman of the 4th Congressional District GOP and a member of the Elections Commission.
Nonpartisan.
No, the commission is partisan.
Oh, it is partisan.
It is partisan. So there's 3 on the Wisconsin Elections Commission. It was made to have 3 Democrats and 3 Republicans, which is why there's so often a deadlock. And actually, the Paul Revere Show on Civic Media, Mark Thompson is the host of that, and he is also on the Wisconsin Elections Commission as a Democrat. And he very vocally criticized Bob Spindell. So this is basically what happened. Bob Spindell told Republicans in a recent email that the district was proud of lower turnout in Milwaukee, quote, due to a well thought out, multifaceted plan, end quote, that included a substantial and very effective Republican coordinated election integrity program, resulting with lots of Republicans, paid election judges, and trained observers, and extremely significant continued court litigation. That was according to Urban Milwaukee that reported this first. And so basically what that translates to is he praised lower voter turnout in Milwaukee in 2022 that he attributed to targeting Black voters with negative ads and lawsuits filed by Republicans that added voting restrictions and GOP campaigning that pushed Democratic voters to stay home instead of voting for candidates in their party. He celebrated this.
Yay.
And there was significant lower voter turnout in Milwaukee. And Mark Thompson said Spindell should leave his position for overseeing elections after saying something like that. And Spindell said, look, this is a partisan position. You have your party politics, I have mine. And he will not step down, obviously. I mean, I don't think anyone ever thought that he would. But his quote was, the Election Commission was not set up to be fair. The oath of the office that we take does not say anything about being nonpartisan. We were appointed by Republican and Democratic officials to be partisan, and there is nobody more partisan than Ann Jacobs and Mark Thompson, and that is meant to be a compliment. And it's just disappointing that instead of focusing on your candidates having better ideas and better policy and appealing to people,
to encourage them to vote for you,
and appealing to them to vote for you and your policy or you and your party, the tactic is to motivate them not to vote at all. Really, in the spirit of the people.
Democracy.
So I don't have much more to say besides that. I think that is, again, I get it. In the partisan rhetoric of wanting your party to win, fine. I just think ideally that happens through better policy and better ideas and better candidates, not through voter suppression. What do I know? Again, I'm just a radio host. All right, when we come back, some more updates on things that are happening in the House. They continue to be able to vote on things. So no meltdown like last week yet. But and then some other Wisconsin headlines. Stick around. This is As Goes Wisconsin.
On me.
WAUK 540 AM, Brookfield's choice for News Talk Radio. Streaming 24/7 at WAUKradio.com.
CBS News special report. President Biden says a second batch of documents marked classified was found after a search of his two homes in Delaware. The discovery at his house in Wilmington came after the first group was found in November at an office he once used, but word only came out about it this week.
My lawyers reviewed other places where documents from my time as vice president were stored, and they finished the review last night. They discovered a small number of documents of classified markings in storage areas and file cabinets in my home and my personal library.
The president did not say how many or when the latest papers were found.
As I said earlier this week, people know I take classified documents and classified material seriously. I also said we're cooperating fully and completely with the Justice Department's review.
Attorney General Garland is expected to make a statement on this later today. CBS News Special Report. I'm Steve Kathan.
A progressive voice from Manitowoc to Janesville. WAUK 540 AM. Always streaming at WAUKradio.com.
For Civic Media, I'm Terry Bell with this news. Governor Evers' efforts to legalize recreational marijuana are likely up in smoke. That's what Assembly Speaker Robin Vos tells the Journal-Sentinel. Evers plans to try to legalize recreational marijuana as part of his state budget proposal. Vos says legislative leaders are just starting to warm up to medical marijuana. Vos says Evers' recreational pot proposal could turn Republicans off. It's usually kids who get in trouble for fighting at school, but a number of adults are in trouble after a fight outside a middle school in Oshkosh yesterday. Police say it started when two students got into a fight, but then their family showed up and things escalated. Police arrested several of the adults. In sports, the Bucks beat Atlanta last night 114-105. Milwaukee's at Miami tonight. Marquette beat UConn last night 82-76. You're listening to The Shaw, 101 FM, WAUK 540 AM.
Women hear a lot about self-care these days. Advice on ways to relax, exercise, eat healthy, and more. Those are all great. But one of the most important self-care steps we can take is making sure we're financially secure later in life. That means saving money for retirement. It's never too late to start, and it's the kind of self-care that brings peace of mind that lasts. For small steps you can take to save for retirement, visit WeSaySaveIt.org. That's WeSaySaveIt.org. A message from AARP and the Ad Council.
This local musical interlude is brought to you by Max Inc. Radio, VO5.
Let's do it on the dance floor. Let's do it how we can. Let's do it. Let's do it.
Listen to Max Inc. Radio every Saturday and Sunday, 6 p.m. to midnight. Download the podcast at maxincradio.com. We are local music.
Hey, this is Jim Santel. I am the host of Morning Cannolis. Every single Saturday morning from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m., we talk about the major stories in law, in government, and the aspiration for justice in America. Delighted to have you join, call in, and be a part of our discussion right here on the networks of Civic Media.
You've got questions about navigating the healthcare system? Kristen Lyerly helps us find answers and discusses other issues at the intersection of healthcare and politics. Hometown Health, Thursday mornings at 7:30 on Up North News Radio.
Welcome back to As Goes Wisconsin with Kristen Bry and Jane Madnair on the board. Thank you for listening, wherever you're listening, whether it's on a radio station, you're streaming it on the Civic Media app, or you're listening to a podcast later. Thank you for tuning in. You can always join the conversation at 844-967-2789. And just to start off a little bit, this segment with stuff going down in the U.S. Capitol. I think this is just going to be interesting. First of all, it was such a rough start for the Republicans in the House last week.
A little rocky.
It's still really rough with George Santos, or whatever his real name is.
But it doesn't seem to bother anyone in Congress.
No, it does. I mean, yesterday, there's more Republicans who are coming out saying we don't want to do this with him.
In Congress?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I thought this was just...
McCarthy hasn't said anything.
I thought it was just in New York State.
Oh. Maybe I misread that then.
I think there's
certainly Republicans who are speaking out about this, and it may be the Republican Party of New York. Because they're like, we could lose this seat. This is such a bad look that we could lose this seat in 2 years. Because it was a competitive race. He flipped it. He flipped the district. And he's being very defiant as far as he will not resign. Like, I was elected by the people. I'm not here to serve the party. I'm not here to serve other politicians. I whatever my name actually is, under whatever pretenses that people elected me under, that they thought of who I was, I'm staying. Which it's also like, what does he? Oh, I don't know. This is so fascinating to me. Like, does he think that he's going to get elected again?
I don't know that he cares.
But what do you get from 2 years in Congress where everyone thinks you're a joke?
I don't know. Again, there are some financial arrangements there that are still getting questions and some scrutiny.
Yeah.
And I think that's the route to follow. There might have been some financial hanky-panky.
Might have been?
We don't know yet.
All right. Well, here are some other things that the House has been working on this week. Yesterday, the lower chamber passed two measures, largely along party lines, including the Born Alive bill, which would require doctors to provide care to infants born after an attempted abortion, which is
not a thing.
Well, it's very rare. Very, very rare. 210 Democrats voted against it. And the second bill would condemn attacks on anti-abortion orgs and pregnancy crisis centers. This bill highlights a shift in priorities that now that Republicans control the chamber, but obviously both are expected to fall flat in the Senate, and Biden would never pass it. But I like this idea that don't we all condemn attacks on almost, doesn't the decent person always condemn attacks? Like the attack that happened in Madison. Didn't everyone on both sides say, yeah, this is a bad thing. Don't use violence. So why are you like passing a bill that's like we're condemning attacks on anti-abortion organizations and pregnancy crisis centers? So yeah, I also morally condemn them.
It's all performative. It's just because, again, they know it's not going to pass in the Senate and President Biden is going to sign off on it, but they can go back to their constituents and say, see, we tried. We knew it wasn't going to do anything.
Yeah. Which is the same thing with the IRS, because that's also not going to pass. It's just interesting because most of the stuff that I feel like, especially the extreme stuff that they're wanting to put forward, is not going to get through the Senate, and then it's never going to make it to Biden's desk. But earlier, go ahead.
And I just find it interesting that now that they're in power, the Republicans are jumping right on crime and fixing inflation and all of those things that they ran on up to the midterms. And good to see that they're focused. They're just all focused and ready to go on behalf of the Americans.
Well, one of the things they did run on was this IRS thing, which they have followed through, whether it's the best use of time or not. But we talked about this a little bit. Where also earlier this week, the House passed legislation that would cut more than $70 billion, around 90% of new funding for the IRS. And that money was part of the Inflation Reduction Act that was supposed to help the IRS expand so it could crack down on tax cheats and get you your tax refunds faster.
Update their software.
Yes. But Republicans said this would lead to the IRS to go after small businesses. And as you can imagine, President Biden vowed to veto this measure if it somehow got through the Senate. And I think his dig was House Republicans' top economic priority is to let rich and big companies skip out on their taxes.
And I think that should be pounded over and over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of President Biden,
whoops,
hasn't gotten any better.
No, whoops. Ugh. Oh, I forgot.
So earlier this week, it was reported that around 10 or 12 classified documents were found by his lawyers in his office at the Penn Biden think tank. And turns out there's another set of classified documents that they didn't know were just out there.
In his garage.
Oh, that's where they were?
Next to his Corvette in Delaware.
That's not good.
No, it's not good.
This is a really bad look.
I just do want to clarify, though, there is an enormous distinction between this instance and what happened with Donald Trump, who spent a year and a half refusing to turn over the requested documents, which is why they went to Mar-a-Lago to get them. Whereas President Biden, when they discovered these, turned them over immediately.
Totally. And I subscribe to this newsletter called The Flip Side, which presents, exactly what it sounds like, what each side is saying about the same topic. And it's basically the right is saying, we need an investigation in this. And this basically proves that whatever prosecution that you were going to go after for Trump for having these, it complicates that, unless you're going to go have the same kind of prosecution for the Biden. And it's saying that the left is saying, we need an investigation, but let's just be clear on how different these two cases are.
I have no problem with there being an investigation.
Yeah. Well, and speaking of investigation, the House Oversight Committee asked the Treasury Department for information on President Biden's family finances amid suspicions of fraud in their business dealings. And the panel also wants to hear from former Twitter executives about why they censored Hunter Biden's laptop. And they're also, and then they're also going to launch this investigation into the 2 batches of classified documents. So staying busy. Stateside in Wisconsin, more and more people beyond just Milwaukee leadership really hammering in on shared revenue discussions. And Robin Vos saying he won't agree to any updates to Wisconsin shared revenue programs without spending reforms from local governments, even though I've certainly am most up to date in Milwaukee, but I have heard stories from across the state.
Absolutely.
Republican conservative mayors saying there is nothing left to cut.
Yep. You got to give us more money.
And it's just, I don't know what would make him happy. I mean that sincerely. It's like, what reforms does he just want to privatize everything? Because he has said that of Milwaukee. Like, I want there to be exploration of how certain services could be privatized. But is that every municipality needs to be doing that? Like, what is this reform after so many towns, cities, municipalities have been cutting and cutting and cutting and going to put referenda on the ballot to try to not only fund schools, but to fund police? And it's so, the hypocrisy here is like, this is what happens. Your local government is what funds your police. So by proxy, by not negotiating or understanding what the municipal budget system looks like and what they're up against, Robin Vos is defunding the police.
Essentially.
I mean, tell me how he's not.
Well, and as far as what I think he wants, I think he sees himself as the patriarch of Wisconsin.
The gatekeeper.
Yeah. And the $6 billion in surplus is his money. That's his money. And if you're nice to me, maybe I'll give you some. And if you're not nice to me, I'm not going to give you anything.
Never met the man, so I don't know. But he said he's open to the idea of updating shared revenue. There's the shared revenue formula. But he's, since those first comments, called on local governments to reform their own budgets. And the quote was, "We cannot have significant increases in local revenues without meaningful spending reforms and permanent cost-saving measures. There continue to be many discussions regarding what a package might look like." So at least he's not saying no in the same way he's saying heck no to recreational marijuana, which it's not surprising. But, in the talks this week of Devin LeMahieu, who I think was the holdout last session, is indicating that he and his caucus may be more amenable to medical marijuana, specifically for people with chronic illnesses and chronic pain. But Vos wanted to make it very clear that this is not a pathway to recreational marijuana. His quote there was, "I want to make sure that, at least from my perspective, we are crystal clear. This is not about a pathway toward recreational marijuana. It's not about creating a new industry with all kinds of new revenue for this state, because who would ever want that? It's about making sure that people who suffer with a chronic disease get relief in a way that helps their quality of life be better." Well, at least he wants that.
Well, I mean, if they really want to be fair, then they should insert themselves in between people with chronic pain and their doctors. And so you have to go to LeMahieu and Vos and explain your condition and get their okay, because they're the medical experts.
Totally.
And then they can determine whether or not you get to use medical marijuana.
But I love that the fiscal conservative is like, no, we do not want more revenue for this state. This is not about we don't want a new industry. We can't bring in new revenue. No. And even though it's decriminalized in every major city.
Already.
Yeah. And so it's literally, we're not mitigating use. We're just making people drive further for it. And also, I don't know, have you had, is it Delta 8?
I have no idea.
Which is legal.
Okay, no.
So Delta 8 is like, through a loophole when they legalized hemp. It's a I forgot exactly the science of it, but it's basically missing one of the components of THC that is in
regular
marijuana. But that's hilarious to me because I've had some of the Delta 8 gummies that are legal in Wisconsin, so not doing anything wrong. Do not report me. But those little suckers work. Like, they'll get you high. And so again, it's like, so we have this other thing that's even less regulated that largely because it's legal, there's not a ton of standardization across how these gummies are made or how they're distributed, but they're just legal for hemp farmers to make and sell. So we are fine with that, but it's a no dog. It's a no for me dog on recreational marijuana. All right. And then finally, do you have a strong feeling about the Milwaukee Public Museum and this fight that's been happening?
I love the Milwaukee Public Museum. A good friend of mine works for the museum, and I've done numerous interviews there, and I understand the whole people love the streets of old Milwaukee. It's just not practical to move it. It's just not. And I think, and I don't know this for certain, but I'm sure that for the museum president and all of those people, they would love to be able to just pick up and move everything and make everyone happy. And unfortunately, that's just not feasible.
And this, if anything, this is a motivator for me to get my butt to the Milwaukee Public Museum because I haven't gone yet since moving back. And so I certainly am feeling like the pressure to make sure I get there. But it also just feels like, where was this energy for the domes?
No
Clearly,
love for the domes.
No, not as much love for the domes. But all right, when we come back, 3 headlines and a lie. Do you think you can pick out which one is not a real headline? This is As Goes Wisconsin.
Hey, this is Matt from Design Garden. Remember when the internet was new? Back then, you had to leave your house to start a business. Companies used to pay programmers bags of cash to get online. Now, small businesses can get online with a Facebook business page, or Squarespace, or Google My Business, or WordPress. But which tools should you use? Can you afford to go down the wrong path? Design Garden uses modern tools to build your website the right way. Find us online at design.garden. Again, that's design.garden.
It's easy to listen to your favorite local radio station anytime. Download the Civic Media app from the Apple or Google Play Store, then listen live or whenever you want from anywhere for free.
My fine guest, Maggie Dawn, attorney at law. I thought that the laws of the United States were supposed to evolve with societal norms. The vast majority of Americans, 70% approximately, believe that Roe v. Wade should be the law of the land. So that seems exactly contrary to the way the courts are supposed to evolve with our nation.
I'll just say this. The guy in Colorado can't be forced to make a gay wedding cake, but I can be forced to make a baby. I don't know about you, but that makes no damn sense to me.
Follow the Devil's Advocates on Facebook and Twitter.
Stories come to life at your local parks and forests. They're places of wonder, and they're closer than you think. Make the forest part of your story today at a local park near you, or find one at discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Here's your updated forecast on the Shaw. Overcast this afternoon with a chance of flurries. Daytime highs approaching 35. North winds 10 to 15 miles an hour. Chance for snow showers again tonight, lows around 26. Cloudy skies expected. Sunshine mixed with clouds at times tomorrow. A few flurries possible at times, high of 31. A dusting of snow tonight. For Civic Media, I'm meteorologist Derek Height. Currently, it's 34 degrees.
The Shaw 101 FM, your fix for progressive talk. From Butler to Wind Lake. Always streaming at WAUKradio.com.
Welcome back to As Goes Wisconsin with Kristen Bry. We are rounding out the first hour of news with a little quiz. This is 3 headlines and a lie.
Oh, yay.
I know the answer. Jane does not. Play along. See if you can guess which one is correct and which one is made up. All right. 3 of these headlines are real and 1 is fake.
Right.
And the first one is Babies R Us attempts comeback, plans to open store at American Dream Mall in New Jersey. Toys R Us went bankrupt, didn't it?
Yes. I mean, and it was a huge chain.
Oh, I remember.
Oh,
I remember Toys R Us. I remember exactly where it was, the one that we would go to in Madison.
Oh, wow.
And it was such a treat when we got to go there. And what year did that really start to? I mean, I feel like it's typical with just all brick and mortar stores, right? As far as the decline.
I'm trying to remember how long ago that was. Certainly the last 20 years.
It's funny to think of the entire store being full of toys and like the entire bike, the aisle with all the bikes and the board games and everything. And because now, and like, on your kid brain, how everything seems bigger than it actually is.
Sure.
I remember the first time I ever went back to my doctor's office, my pediatrician doctor's office. And as a toddler or 5-year-old, 6-year-old, the like little jungle gym, it was not a jungle gym, but the thing in there that you could play in.
Yeah.
And I remember going back at 10 and being like, this thing is tiny. Which I don't know why there was such a big gap between, maybe I went to a different pediatrician's office for a little while.
They just didn't
But I just
take
remember
the doctor
getting
for
back
7
there as
years.
like a bigger kid and being like, I thought this was bigger.
I thought this was so cool.
Because you think of like Target now and their toy aisles and how much it's hard for me to remember, like, is that just a fraction of what was actually at Toys R Us, or was Toys R Us smaller than I remember it being?
Toys R Us had a pretty big footprint.
Yeah.
From what I remember.
Anyways, that's option number 1.
Okay,
Babies R
Babies R Us,
attempts
coming back.
comeback. Plans to open store at American Dream Mall in New Jersey. Number 2, M&M's to offer all female packages for a limited time.
Excuse me?
This seems like the Doritos for girls packaging all over again. I don't know if it's real. That one could be the made up one.
So are we talking about the cartoon M&Ms?
I don't know because I don't know if it's real or not.
Okay.
Well, I do know, but I'm not going to say yet. Prince Harry's new book, Spare, reveals his 12th birthday party theme was office supplies.
That was Charles' idea.
He had to wear a suit.
Yep.
Well, 12-year-olds had to wear.
Everybody got staplers.
Clip-on ties. All right, and number 4, the world's first flying motorcycle could hit the skies soon. Here's everything we know. All right, you want me to read them again?
Yes, please.
Number 1. So this is 3 headlines and a lie. Which one is not real? Babies R Us attempts comeback, plans to open store at American Dream Mall in New Jersey. 2, M&M's to offer all-female packages for a limited time. Number 3, Prince Harry's new book, Spare, reveals his 12th birthday party theme was office supplies. 4, the world's first flying motorcycle could hit the skies soon. Here's everything we know.
I'm going with the lie is Prince Harry's 12th birthday.
Ding, 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 ding.
Oh, yay.
That is correct. I don't know what are you going to read this book?
No.
No. I'm also not going to read it. But yes, the other ones are real. So let's check out the Babies R Us one doesn't seem that insane to me.
I am surprised, though. I really am. Just because online shopping has not lessened.
Yeah. I do think there's something to be said about having a place where you can go see the thing.
I agree.
Like the convenience of online shopping, I totally understand. And especially if you're doing it on Amazon, they make it so easy to return. Now you don't even have to most of the time you don't even have to repackage it. You just have to have your little QR code at UPS and they just take it and they throw it in the bin
Super
and
easy.
everything gets sent back. This is why I hate online shopping for clothes. First of all, I just get overwhelmed. And then it's just like, I don't know how it's going to look. I don't know how it's going to feel. And I just abandon it and I go back to doing something else. But yes, so M&M's to offer all female packages for a limited time. Mars, the maker of M&M's, also, what did we learn yesterday? That Mars is also invested in veterinarian clinics.
Oh, that's
randomly.
Right. Yeah.
I did not see that one coming. Has announced plans to debut all female packages as a way to celebrate women everywhere who are flipping the status quo. So I wonder if this is a Women's History Month in March thing. But the package will feature flipped images or upside down images of the brand's female trio spokes candies, green, brown, and purple characters. I didn't know there was a purple character. I didn't know there's a purple M&M. Each of the limited edition packs, which come in milk chocolate, peanut, and peanut butter varieties, will also contain only green, brown, and purple candies. Branding, baby.
If you want to celebrate women and women's advancements, then they should be wearing flats and not heels.
One of them does. One of them wears sneakers.
Oh, does she wear sneakers?
Yeah, like the urban hip hop one, I think, wears sneakers.
All right.
And the green one, though, definitely wears kitten heels. They're not. At least they're not stilettos.
Spokes candy.
But coming to a city near you, Jetpack's Aviation Speeder is undergoing flight tests and working towards FAA certification. And the rendering of what this looks like is out of something from like The Fifth Element.
Is it really?
Yeah. One of the smallest jet aircrafts ever designed could be several years away from becoming the first sky legal motorcycle. The Jetpack Aviation Speeder will be a flying street bike that uses 8 tiny but powerful jet engines to cruise 60 miles per hour for about 30 minutes.
What could go wrong?
Definitely what happens when you become like Sully and you have to land that thing because a bird got in your little like windpipe?
I'm just thinking about, are people going to be flying right over my head?
Yeah, like what's the like licensing process going to be able to like drive one of these things or fly one of these things?
What about routes? What about lanes? What about, there's so many questions.
So many questions. Yeah. But that was a real one. So yeah, the only one that was fake is Prince Harry. I don't know what the theme was of his 12th birthday party. I'm sure it was just as boring as office supplies. But if you read the book and you find out, let us know. All right, well, we're going to take a break for the top of the hour news. When we come back, our discussion on the Waukesha School Board meeting that happened last night. Feel free to start texting or calling in, 844-967-2789. Stay tuned. This is As Goes Wisconsin.
Women hear a lot about self-care these days. Advice on ways to relax, exercise, eat healthy, and more. Those are all great. But one of the most important self-care steps we can take is making sure we're financially secure later in life. That means saving money for retirement. It's never too late to start. And it's the kind of self-care that brings peace of mind that lasts. For small steps you can take to save for retirement, visit WeSaySaveIt.org. That's WeSaySaveIt.org. A message from AARP and the Ad Council.
Hey there, fellow working class heroes. I'm Rick Smith, host of The Rick Smith Show, and we are now on the air in Waukesha, live weeknights 8 to 10 p.m. right here on WAUK 540 AM, 101 FM The Shaw. Turn on, tune in, and help us rebuild the American dream. Check out our website at thericksmithshow.com. The Rick Smith Show, where working people come to talk. Weeknights 8 to 10 p.m. right here on WAUK 540 AM, 101.
You are listening to WAUK 540 AM Jackson, W266 DR Waukesha, always streaming on the Civic Media app.
This is CBS News on the Hour, sponsored by Liberty Mutual Insurance.
I'm Steve Kathan. We've heard from President Biden about the second batch of sensitive documents that has the White House facing questions from Republicans.
The president says the searches of his homes in Rehoboth Beach and Wilmington, Delaware, conducted in consultation with federal prosecutors, were completed last night.
They discovered a small number of documents of classified markings in storage areas and file cabinets in my home and my personal library.
Mr. Biden says most of the documents were in a locked garage in Wilmington, next to his Corvette. He says he continues to cooperate with federal investigators. Stephen Portnoy, CBS News, Washington.
Mr. Biden said today inflation's going in the right direction. A government report pegged it at 6.5% in December compared to a year ago, lower than recent months, and prices fell slightly from November. CBS News business analyst Jill Schlesinger says it's the first month-to-month drop in more than 2 years.
The index for gasoline led to the monthly decline. The energy index down 4.5% over the past month as the prices at the pump continued to slide. For the year, CPI increased by 6.5%, the smallest 12-month increase since the period ending in October of 21.
Well, now to California, where CBS's Carter Evans tells us more wet weather is forecast as much of the state tries to rebound from punishing storms that have caused death and destruction.
So far, the storms dumped more than 2 feet of rain in some areas. The Pajaro River bordering Santa Cruz is already overflowing. So's the Sacramento River, where residents are being forced out by rising water as more storms are expected through the weekend.
Government scientists say 2022 didn't set a new high, but is one of the top 6 warmest years on record. Their report warns of higher years to come because of climate change. Republicans in Montana want to require prior approval for abortions in that state that are funded by Medicaid. Clinic operator Aileen Gleiser is critical of the plan.
It's functionally an abortion ban for low-income families. If individuals have private health insurance, they don't have to go through these hoops.
47-year-old NASCAR veteran Kevin Harvick says this upcoming season will be his last behind the wheel. And 79-year-old singer-songwriter Joni Mitchell is getting the Library of Congress Gershwin Prize for Popular Song.
Seem to go that you don't know what you've got till it's gone.
Previous winners of the Gershwin Prize include Paul McCartney, Stevie Wonder, and Carole King. Checking Wall Street right now, the Dow's up 165 points. This is CBS News.
Nobody should have to pay for one-size-fits-all insurance coverage. Liberty Mutual customizes your car and home insurance so you only pay for what you need. Liberty Mutual and
The Shaw, 101 FM, WAUK 540 AM, Wisconsin's home for rational talk radio.
For Civic Media, I'm Jane Madnair with your headlines. A proposal called Parental Rights and Transparency was unanimously approved by the Waukesha Board of Education Wednesday night. Under the measure, district staff aren't allowed to call a minor student by names, nicknames, or pronouns other than those commonly shortened or abbreviated full names or pronouns consistent with the student's biological sex without the parent's written permission. Regarding sports, students will participate in programs consistent with their biological sex and the rules of the WIAA. Parents can opt their kids out of classes or lessons that may not align with the family's deeply held personal or religious beliefs. A dairy farmer from Viroqua has been appointed to the Wisconsin DNR board. Governor Evers announcing Wednesday Paul Burr will take his position on the board on January 20th. You're listening to The Shaw, 101 FM, WAUK 540 AM.
It's a new year, and because we're excited about our new and still growing Civic Media network of radio stations, it's time to do something really big. How does $1 million advertising giveaway sound to you? Our celebration is your chance to work with Civic Media's amazing sales team, creating a radio advertising campaign promoting your business for free. Save the date. The $1 million advertising giveaway is only happening on Thursday, January 26th. Full details on our website, civicmedia.us/million.
Governor Tony Evers, Tim Michaels said you had gone, quote, full woke. Dr. Jill Underly said that somebody who says that has no idea what we're doing in schools to make sure kids feel safe.
We want to make sure all kids feel supported. Tim Michaels, we don't teach CRT in our schools. You got to come to the present century here, Tim, and be cognizant of what actually goes in the schools. My guess is you've never been in a public school in Wisconsin.
Up North News Radio with Pat Krylo airs at its new time from 6 to 8 a.m. weekdays across Civic Media.
27% of the American workforce, and some even say 30%, were in unions who had representation and who clearly did not have to worry about whether or not they were going to get their fair share. But I'm definitely going to fight for people who get the short end of the stick in this society only because they don't have representation. That's who I am.
Check out the Earl Ingram Show every day from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. only on WAUK 540 AM 101 FM, The Shaw.
A progressive voice for rural Wisconsin. WAUK 540 AM. Always streaming at WAUKradio.com.
As Goes Wisconsin with Kristen Bry is an independent product and has a joint sales agreement with Civic Media. Enjoy.
I can see you in the morning when you go to school. Don't forget your books, you know you've got to learn the golden rule.
Welcome back to As Goes Wisconsin. Thank you for joining us today during your lunch hour, the noon hour. As always, and especially now, you can join the conversation at 844-967-2789. We are going to spend at least the first half of this half hour, maybe the full hour, on some local news. We are sitting in downtown Waukesha at the WAUK, the Shaw Station. And last night, the Waukesha School Board voted unanimously, so that's 8-0, on a bill that it sounds like didn't have, it's unclear if the school board's lawyers looked at this yet. It's apparent that it was only added to the agenda the end of last week to be voted on last night. But the School District of Waukesha Board of Education voted unanimously 8-0 to approve an amended version of a proposal titled Parental Rights and Transparency. The proposal touches upon gender identity, pronouns, transgender athletes, and bathrooms. And there was a large crowd that ended up, despite the
last minute
nature of this, it seems like there was enough organizing that happened from parents. It sounds like potentially on both sides of the issue that showed up last night. And one of the questions addressed in the proposal is how the district should handle a student who wants to use pronouns and names without their parents' knowledge. And we're waiting. Sarah Harrison, former candidate for state representative, former candidate for Waukesha School Board, is going to be joining us shortly. But I just thought, because it's public knowledge as far as what was in the actual resolution, and so I thought to start, until Sarah's able to get here, we just kind of talk through what's in there. So it says, a resolution to affirm the commitment of the School District of Waukesha Board of Education to the rights of parents to be informed of and to direct the education of their minor children. Whereas the School District of Waukesha Board of Education believes parents play the primary role as decision makers in the student's K-12 educational experience. Parents are their children's first teacher and remain teachers and role models throughout their child's educational journey. The relationship between student and classroom teacher should be positive and formative, but does not replace the relationship of a parent and child. The school day should focus on learning and individual development with opportunities for constructive play and intellectual curiosity, and with appropriately challenging academic goals for every student. All students deserve to feel welcome at school, regardless of religious beliefs, race, ethnicity, or sexual orientation. No student shall be compelled to affirm through speech, writing, or action an opinion that violates their deeply held personal, religious, or moral beliefs. Minor students' questions of gender, identity, and sexuality are personal and private. Any involvement on these topics by school staff should be done with the full consent and collaboration of the parents. Consideration of controversial issues has a place in the instructional program of the district when related to the instructional goals of the course of study, and when introduced and conducted properly, the content is age appropriate and is without bias or intent to cause harm or disruption. Student physical safety at school is a district priority. Students and their parents have a right to privacy and information security. Licensed student services professionals play a critical role in creating positive school environments and strengthening family-school partnerships. which are essential for student well-being and academic growth. And finally, access to technology is necessary in a modern learning environment. District-issued student devices are an extension of instructional resources and should not create an unmitigated risk of introducing harmful or inappropriate content. So it goes on for a couple more pages, but that's everything on the first page. And joining us now is Sarah Harrison. Welcome back to the show. We had you in the fall ahead of the election, but do we have her mic on? Great. So if you just talk right into that. Welcome to the show. Welcome back.
Thank you.
So paint the picture of, I guess, the lead up of this, because I received multiple DMs, Civic Media got an email, kind of alerting that this was happening. And then it happened last night. So kind of, let's just paint the picture of what happened before last night in the lead up to this.
Sure. Well, we first saw anything about this as a parent community. I have a child at School of Waukesha. And we first saw anything about this 5 days ago in the board meeting agenda notes.
So this was like Friday of last week or over the weekend?
Yeah, it would have been probably Friday, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is, so anyone who's even noticing that this is happening is people who are reading the board's agenda notes. Okay.
Yeah, you got to be looking for it. Yeah. This resolution wasn't on any sort of committee agenda. It was spoken about apparently within a committee, but it wasn't on the agenda. So the whole thing's a little surprising to us as parents, which is ironic because it's supposed to be about transparency to the parents, and we didn't know they were talking about transparency. So about, late last week, we first became aware of it and started, talking back and forth about, well, what does this mean? And is this the same as some of the national things that we've seen? And it's absolutely a page out of the Parents' Bill of Rights that you saw from Josh Hawley, that you saw from our Wisconsin Republican Party a year ago. It's 100% the same content. It's really disappointing to me that this sort of was sprung on us in that way.
And so that was a lead up. And then it seems like there was enough alarms or awareness spread that a lot of people showed up to the meeting last night. And so how did the meeting go?
The meeting was interesting. Waukesha school board meetings are always interesting, but
and you wanted to be part of it.
I did. It would have at least been a 7-1 vote. Dang it. Anyway, no, I'm just kidding. It's encouraging to see young folks speaking up about what they and their peers are going through, and there were some parents there as well, and myself included, who spoke with the board, who gave public comment. There were a few people who were also
I appreciate that you're trying to find the right words.
I'm trying to be kind. The folks who were saying, yes, please do this thing, didn't have specific concerns. They didn't have...
they couldn't point to certain instances where this has happened and it's been a bad thing.
It was just, well, my kid is my kid, and I should know everything that's going on in their lives. And gosh, I think most parents know you don't know everything that's going on in their lives. And it's been shown that students or kids, whatever, minors who have someone that they can trust, who are in the LGBTQ community, are much less likely to feel as ostracized, to attempt self-harm. LGBTQ kids are 4 times as likely to attempt suicide. And our school already took away the safe space signs. We already took away the pride flags, and now we're taking away the trusted adult that student could talk to. I don't see how this benefits anyone. I personally have 2 kids who are in the LGBTQ community, and I'm very proud of them. And when they came to talk to me about how they were feeling and where they fit into this crazy world, it was a celebratory conversation. It was like, hey, I think I figured this out, and here's where I fit. And, hey, let's go have some brownies or something. I mean, And not every kid has
Yes.
that. It's the kids that don't have that I worry about. I know that there were some students who wanted to attend the meeting whose parents wouldn't allow them to attend the meeting. And those are probably exactly the kids that we need to help, right? I think it's a tenuous, slippery slope at best, and legally not very strong.
So that's the question that I have as far as, because this has developed so quickly, have lawyers looked at this? Is this legal?
So they said that the board did state that they have had conversations with their legal advisors, and that the legal advisors had suggested that if a parent calls to ask, that they can share any information they have, including names, pronouns, sexual preference, but that they shouldn't be calling parents and telling them this. And that's exactly what they're proposing to do, is to call the parents if it comes up at all.
So basically treating it, because I think teachers fall under that, teachers like therapists, where there is, when it comes to a minor, if there's abuse of any sort, they have to, they're required to report it. So they're trying to treat coming out in some way or form almost like it's abuse, where they have to report.
Right. Well, and I think this is funny because one of the board members brought up, hey, do we know if this is legal? Have we talked to, our legal counsel? And the president of the board said, oh, we have. I'm sorry, I'm not sure if it was the president who said we have. I believe it was actually the assistant superintendent who said, yes, we have. And XYZ, like I just explained. And so the proposed workaround for that was, okay, so every year we'll just ask parents if they want us to call out them if something is going on. And I'm like, okay, you asking parents, do you want to know this, is not the same as a parent calling you asking that. So I think there's a strong legal challenge there for what they're trying to do. And I think I don't find it to be very ethical that they passed the resolution knowing that it was not what their legal advice was from their counsel. Now, this is not a policy. It's a I can't think of the word.
Proposal?
Proposal. Thank you. You saved me. But it is what they want to base future policies on, and they want to have it in place like by March. So this is all happening very quickly.
Yeah. So we have to take our first break. When we come back, kind of talk about what does this even look like when you take it out of theory and put it into application of what this looks like, what responsibility and extra work this puts on teachers. And I think there's so many more other implications, and the whole dress code thing, which feels like, did that also get passed last night?
Yes, but not quite in the way that it was.
Okay. We'll talk about it. We'll talk when we come back. All right, stick with us. We're talking about the Waukesha School Board District meeting that happened last night. This is As Goes Wisconsin.
This local musical interlude is brought to you by Max Inc. Radio. Kelsey Miles.
Let the music roll. Hit it.
Listen to Max Inc. Radio every Saturday and Sunday, 6 p.m. to midnight. Download the podcast at maxincradio.com. We are local music.
I was just curious as to why you called it the Paul Revere Show.
The Paul Revere Show is named this way because the poem that we all know, the famous Ride, the poem was written to rally the troops to fight slavery and fight for democracy. And so I named the show the Paul Revere Show because I thought it was the time to get on the air and talk about democracy.
The Paul Revere Show with Mark Thompson. Listen Mondays 7 to 8 p.m. always on the Civic Media app.
Don't you wish your life came with a warning app?
That dog does not want to be petted.
Well, life doesn't always give you time to change the outcome, but prediabetes does. Take the 1-minute test today at doihaveprediabetes.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and its Prediabetes Awareness Partners.
You are never far away from your favorite radio station. We're always streaming on TuneIn and the Civic Media app. And if you missed your favorite show or game, listen to a podcast of it anytime on the app or our website, civicmedia.us.
Here's your updated forecast on the Shaw. Overcast this afternoon with a chance of flurries. Daytime highs approaching 35. North winds 10 to 15 miles an hour. Chance for snow showers again tonight. Lows around 26. Cloudy skies expected. Sunshine mixed with clouds at times tomorrow. A few flurries possible at times. High of 31. A dusting of snow tonight. For Civic Media, I'm meteorologist Derek Height. Currently, it's 34 degrees.
The Shaw 101 FM, Franklin's choice for News Talk Radio. Streaming 24/7 at WAUKradio.com.
Welcome back to As Goes Wisconsin with Kristen Bry. We are talking about the Waukesha Board of Education and the meeting that happened last night where they voted 8-0 to approve a proposal titled Parental Rights and Transparency, and how fast-tracked the whole situation was. And joining us to talk about it is Waukesha School District parent and also former candidate for Waukesha School Board and former candidate for state representative, Sarah Harrison. Thank you for coming back. And so this passed.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a proposal. It's not the actual policy yet.
Right.
So what does the conversation become now as far as how this goes from theory to application?
Sure. That's a great question. I'm not sure how you make this, how do you make this practicable, practical for those teachers? So is it, if a student comes to a teacher and specifically says, I want to be, please use they, them pronouns for me, or please use she, her, or he, him, whatever it may be, is that the trigger? Or is it that I'm a teacher and I'm in the lunchroom and I overhear that so-and-so who was biologically female is being called he, him? Well, now do I have to tell the parents? Am I now the gender police that has to get in touch with the parents? And it puts teachers in this middle ground that I guarantee they don't want to be in. Yeah. And I don't know how you do this and make it practical. I think essentially the aim is to just shut down anyone who wants to have that different name or use different pronouns than they historically have or than that are assigned to their biological sex. And it's very damaging to a trans kid to use their dead name. It's not a small thing to them. It's really harmful. And I wish that our board members would take a step outside of their bubble and understand what some of these kids are going through. It's not a friendly world to this group of kids already, and they're making it even worse.
And so, because that is the question. I mean, I come back to, is this the highest priority?
Yeah, I'm not sure why it should be.
Because didn't a lot of people run on, we should be focusing on education. We should be focusing on test scores. We should be focusing on achievement and graduation rates.
Yep.
And is there anything that they can point to as why this bolsters that goal?
Not that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
I don't think that anyone's going to pass a test better if they're closeted versus not. I think that's going to have the opposite effect for that group. And it really underestimates our students, too. It's saying, well, our kids can't handle this. We're going to protect them from this dangerous thing. And it's not dangerous. It doesn't hurt anyone for you to use their pronouns that they identify as. I don't understand how this hurts anyone. And we didn't hear any arguments about that. What we heard excuse me, in terms of folks who support the resolution, it was just, I deserve to know everything about my kid. And I think that there are some times where if you are not a safe space for your own kid, maybe that's not who needs to know.
Well, and I mean, and that's the thing. About a month or so ago, we had a completely different situation, but we had Natalie Eilbert, who wrote an article about how Wisconsin falls in this weird loophole where some minors cannot get medical care without their parents' consent. And the number of minors who fall under, it's like 17,000 unhoused people, like minors, who can't, if something happens to them and their parents aren't there or don't sign off on medical care, they can't get medical care. And so the idea that everyone lives in a house like I grew up in, right? Which I was incredibly lucky. I had unbelievably supportive parents. I am still so close to them today. And had I come out, I'm sure there would have been some questions because it was the 90s and the early 2000s. But they would have been supportive. But so many people do not have that kind of support system at home. Yeah. And a lot of them find it at school sometimes. Yes. And this is taking that away.
Absolutely. That is the one safe space that is left for some students. And my oldest, my 18-year-old, actually spoke at the meeting last night too. And that was kind of their point was, you have already made this an uncomfortable environment, and now you're taking away that last bit where there might have been a trusted adult that someone could go to, and now they can't for fear of being outed. People should be able to choose who they are out to and at what pace. And this completely cuts that off for them.
And I think too, Sarah, this is not just happening here in Waukesha. There is a concerted effort around the country. Yes. And from what I understand, it is a religiously based group that is pushing these things.
Yeah, so groups like, I know Moms for Liberty, and here in Wisconsin, the group Will have definitely...
The law firm? My favorite law firm in Wisconsin.
Yeah, they're great. They have definitely pushed these things, and the Republican Party too. I mean, it's a political thing, and it is a lot of things are religious based, and we're supposed to have a separation here between your religion and public schools. If you want to go to a religious school, you can go to a religious school, but this is not supposed to be part of how we form our policies in public schools.
All right, well, we're going to keep this conversation going. Sarah's going to stay here. If you have thoughts or comments or questions about the situation, both either in your own school district or the Waukesha School District, 844-967-2789. We will take your calls and texts when we come back. This is As Goes Wisconsin.
Bringing some sanity to the airwaves. The Shaw 101 FM, WAUK 540 AM.
CBS News brief. The White House has revealed more about the second batch of sensitive documents.
All but one of these documents were found in a storage space in the president's Wilmington residence garage. One document consisting of one page was discovered among stored materials in an adjacent room, and no documents were found in the Rehoboth Beach residence.
CBS's Anne-Marie Green. President Biden says he's cooperating with federal investigators. All's back to normal today after yesterday's computer glitch that caused an aviation ground stop and thousands of cancellations and delays. CBS's Chris Van Cleve.
It was a corrupted database file that kicked off this whole mess that brought the nation's aviation system to a screeching halt.
Bank rates. Mark Hamrick on the latest government inflation report out today.
Contributors to upward pressure on core inflation include shelter or housing, household furnishings, car insurance, recreation, and clothing.
CBS News brief. I'm Steve Kathan.
The Shaw 101 FM, your fix for progressive talk. From Muskego to Pewaukee. Always streaming at WAUKradio.com.
For Civic Media, I'm Terry Bell with this news. A man from Kenosha accused of poisoning his wife in 1998 is on trial for a second time. Mark Jensen was convicted of murder, but in 2021, the Wisconsin Supreme Court ordered a new trial. A key piece of evidence in the first trial was a letter Julie Jensen wrote. It said if anything happened to her, police should assume her husband did it. That letter will not be admissible in this trial. The U.S. House is creating a new select committee on strategic competition between the United States and China. Wisconsin Republican Congressman Mark Gallagher has been pushing for such a committee. It will look into China's economic, technological, and security advancements. It will also examine competition with the United States. In sports, the Bucks beat Atlanta last night 114-105. Marquette beat UConn last night 82-76. You're listening to The Shaw, 101 FM, WAUK 540 AM.
Women hear a lot about self-care these days. Advice on ways to relax, exercise, eat healthy, and more. Those are all great. But one of the most important self-care steps we can take is making sure we're financially secure later in life. That means saving money for retirement. It's never too late to start. And it's the kind of self-care that brings peace of mind that lasts. For small steps you can take to save for retirement, visit WeSaySaveIt.org. That's WeSaySaveIt.org. A message from AARP and the Ad Council.
The Devil's Advocates.
But do you think the Biden administration's calling up Laura Ingraham and making the announcement to the world that we're invading Russia with amphibious troops? Come on, Trump. I mean, and I want to hear fine Trumpsters that want to defend that crap. You know, he's a little late for the early bird buffet. Maybe you people were just naive marks who believed he was a super genius. Then I got some land I'd like to sell you outside of Fukushima.
Check out the entire podcast library at darnwi.com.
Kristen, after you do the setup, we've got a caller.
How critically important a time this is. Time for talk is over. The time for action is now. Because my voice has always been and will continue to be for people who don't have a voice.
Tune in to The Earl Ingram Show every Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. Only on WAUK 540 AM, 101.1 FM, The Shaw.
Uh-oh, Brad's buzzed.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he's starting with the woots. Good thing is, he knows when he's buzzed.
Know your buzzed warning signs? Call for a ride when it's time to go home. Buzz driving is drunk driving. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to As Goes Wisconsin with Kristen Bry. Thank you for joining us on your lunch hour. We are here with Sarah Harrison, parent in the Waukesha School District, former candidate for the Waukesha School Board, former candidate for state representative. And we were talking about the school board meeting in Waukesha that happened last night, where they voted 8-0 on a proposal titled Parental Rights and Transparency that largely had to do with gender identity, pronouns, transgender athletes, bathrooms. And Jane, you said that we had a caller?
Dave from the Shaw is on the line. Go ahead, Dave.
Hi, Kristen. Hi, Sarah. Sarah's a friend of mine. I'm a parent here in Waukesha, and I'm also a school board junkie. I watch the meetings. I keep up with what's happening. And I watched last night, and I think something stuck out to me. I heard one board member talk about she owns her kids. And that's not the first time she's used that language before. I heard another board member talk about controlling their kids. And I think those kinds of comments are microcosms of the bigger issues that we're facing in Waukesha. And it's based around the perceived needs of parents instead of focusing on who needs to be most important, which is obviously the students. And I think because the board rushed this resolution and they didn't take community input, it seems to me it's really focused on the needs of just a handful of parents as opposed to maybe taking the pulse of the entire community. And I think it these actions from the board in the last year and a half, from removal of the safe space signage and rainbow flags to this parents' bill of rights, and even you guys mentioned the dress code changes, and what was originally proposed as going back to business casual with no t-shirts, that was changed to just a change in non-political or controversial clothing, something that even as like goofy as a lanyard. I think it reiterates a bias against the LGBTQIA community, and like Sarah brought up before, I think there's some real terrible outcomes when you do all of these things that seem biased against one group of kids. And anyway, I appreciate you guys taking my call and continuing this conversation, because I think it's for the good of students in some ways, like for the good of like their life, and we just need to keep pushing.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for the call, Dave. And that's it, because you said there was students who spoke last night.
Yes.
Were any of those students for the resolution?
No.
Got it.
No. There were 2 recent graduates who spoke, and then there were at least 2 current students, and all of them were in support of, all of them were against the resolution.
Because I would say in the many videos nationwide that have gone viral of school boards and how interesting they've gotten over the last couple of years, of the young people who couldn't speak.
Sure.
I don't know if I've seen any of them who are saying, more conservative, I feel threatened, I feel manipulated, I feel groomed, as that buzzword. And granted, I can't watch every school board meeting in the country, but I know. But you know what I mean? And so it is interesting, as Dave was saying, as far as this being about the students, and who are the ones who are complaining, feeling they feel threatened at school because of safe spaces, because there is inclusionary topics or shows or whatever. And so it's like the comfort of the parents seemingly being prioritized over any student who's even coming forward saying, this makes me uncomfortable, like this rainbow flag makes me uncomfortable.
Right.
I'm not saying it doesn't exist.
Sure.
It just doesn't seem like those are the young people who are saying, this is why this affects me.
Right. Right. I don't know anyone who suddenly turned queer because their teacher had a rainbow lanyard. I've yet to hear that story. If it's out there, that would be really interesting, but I don't think that's happening. And I think you're right. You're right. It's a knee-jerk reaction by parents. It's something that has been put into the national spotlight by politicians on the Republican side. It is not something that is an organic issue that we're hearing about in Waukesha. It may be that there are some issues that are happening here, there. I don't know. I can't possibly know that. But it's not coming from a groundswell of people really are feeling put out by the non-existent, people can't even wear that stuff now anyway. But it's not to protect those students. From what I'm seeing, it's a parental reaction, and they want to have control.
Yeah.
We have a texter from the 608 coming from a student in the Waukesha School District. I'm beyond disgusted with the decision that has been unanimously made by the school board. In no way does this have anything to do with education. This is a way for the board to have more control over these children's lives. I'm convinced they're scared of not having that stronghold. We're kids. We're changing, growing up, discovering ourselves, and they're scared of us. They don't want us to have separate beliefs. They want the children in the schools to conform.
Yeah. And I think what Dave said as far as the language, because words matter, right?
Yes.
I own my kids. And it said, I brought you into this world, I'll take you out of it. That kind of mentality of, good luck with your long-term relationship with your kid.
You know, it's funny. That's exactly what my kids said to me is, well, in 20 years, they're not going to have a relationship. And that board member said the word own multiple times. This was not a slip up. This was how she refers to her children, I guess. I'm not even going to go down that rabbit hole of owning humans. It's not a thing. Yeah. No, this is for the comfort of the adults in the room.
Yeah. We're talking to Sarah Harrison about the Waukesha School Board vote that happened last night on the parental rights and transparency proposal. And it's interesting. I saw one of the best analogies, and it was a teacher. This is on TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. Like that, I just have to admit it that this is on TikTok, and it was someone who was a teacher.
Yeah,
and she was they were a high school teacher, and they present very androgynously. They have short hair, really funky clothing, and they were giving the analogy that in addition to being non-binary, they are a vegetarian.
Okay.
And they were saying how my kids ask me about being a vegetarian.
Right.
They ask me where I eat.
Mm-hmm.
What do I eat for lunch?
Mm-hmm.
It's not like I've convinced any of them to become a vegetarian. I'm not trying to become. She's like, but I will say this.
Yeah.
I had a student who was interested in becoming a pescatarian, and they felt very comfortable asking me questions about it.
Yeah.
And it was such a great, they did it better than I did, but it was such a great, it's just the identities or the place that teachers have to think that if you as a parent can't control your own kid, why do you think a teacher's going to be able to control your kid?
Yeah, exactly. And aren't you supposed to be trying to develop your kid to make good choices and to be their own person? I mean, that has always been my goal as a parent, is not to control my kids. Maybe when they're like 3 years old and throwing a fit, maybe there's a little bit of, all right, well, we got to try to control this. But your ultimate goal shouldn't be to control them, because then what happens when they leave the house? How do they function as a fully formed human if you don't ever let them be themselves?
And so Jane, do you have something?
Don't you think, though? I think sometimes people have children with the goal of having mini-me's.
Yeah.
They're going to look like me. They're going to act like me. They're going to think the same way I do about everything. And when that doesn't happen, I think some people are really shocked.
Yeah. I mean, if I had an Alex P. Keaton, I might have a different point of view, right? My kids are pretty similar to me. But all joking aside, I mean, I have folks that I'm close to that are different than me. We're not all, it's not vanilla, exactly the same type of community.
Homogenous.
Homogenous. Yeah. That's a better way to say it. I have folks in my family who have various political views, and we can get along and we can talk about those things. We don't have to all agree on everything.
Yeah. And so going back to a little bit more of what ended up happening with the dress code, because there's separate but kind of under the same thing, because the original email that got forwarded to me about staff and dress grooming, saying, as such, we require staff to dress in a professional manner that can be described as business casual, which does not include any of the following: t-shirts, jeans, sweatpants, sweatshirts, athletic shorts, tight or ill-fitting clothing that shows excessive skin, tennis shoes, beach sandals, flip-flops, my husband would be out, and baseball caps or other hats. And to a certain extent, some of that I get, because it's your job. But the points that I was seeing as like, what are the Phi Ed teachers going to wear?
Yes.
What are special ed teachers going to wear? So how is that what got passed, or what did the conversation end up being about how teachers can dress?
So the list basically went away, which was really odd, because that was at the HR meeting, which was right before, and then they spoke about it also at the general meeting. And myself and a kindergarten teacher, first grade teacher, both spoke at the HR meeting saying, if I'm a special ed teacher, if I'm a kindergarten teacher sitting on the floor crisscross applesauce, how am I supposed to wear a dress or like
jeans or yoga pants?
Yeah, right. Like that doesn't make any sense. And
also, just quickly, business casual clothes are not cheap.
No.
And teachers do not make a lot of money. So the thing is like, oh, you have to have this wardrobe to look appropriate at school, but we're not going to give you any money to go get that wardrobe. But anyway, sorry to interrupt you.
What cracks me up is that a lot of this stuff that they have listed actually in most business casual environments would be acceptable.
I'm wearing a t-shirt right now. This is like the most dressed up I've been all week.
Yeah, me too. I got jeans on. I'm a manager. I run a team of 12 people, and I still can be a professional when I'm wearing my jeans. It's amazing that doesn't change my personality. Sorry, a little sassy there. But what they ended up saying was basically anything with messaging was out. And then they were very adamant about any type of accessory, such as a lanyard or a mask, must be a single color. And the only reason for them to say that is that they don't want rainbows. They don't want things like, trans flag colors or anything like that. And how has any student's education ever been impacted by the color or colors of their teacher's lanyard? This is what we're spending our time on.
Mm-hmm.
This is manufactured outrage baloney, in my view.
So in the couple minutes we have left, this passed.
Mm-hmm.
It's now moving forward in what the application of it will look like.
Yep.
Is there anything people can do?
Yeah.
As far as, because it seems like something where people showed up at the meeting to make a comment.
Mm-hmm.
The comment was not heard. I mean, I don't know what the balance was between both sides, but as far as the people who hold the power are continuing to move forward. And so is it just a more and more awareness for the next school board election? Is like, what would you give as far as like, whether it's Waukesha specifically or I guess more generally across the state?
So, unfortunately, in the next school board election, we have 4 candidates and only one of them would have voted differently. And that's Diane Voigt, and she's amazing, and I fully endorse her, and you should support her.
And that's for this upcoming election?
That's for this upcoming election in April. I personally plan to continue making a lot of noise. I'm reaching out to some LGBTQ affinity groups and trying to see what has been done in other areas to fight back against these things. I am trying to pull in any resource that I can think of to have a basis for this to be reversed, but once it's so much harder once it's already been approved.
Yeah.
And we still have to go through the policy development, so we can still make comments, but if they're not heard, that's not going to give a lot of reaction or a lot of action.
Yeah. Well, as this story develops, we will definitely have you back. But Sarah Harrison, thank you so much for joining us. This conversation is important, and we will continue to talk about it. But thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, it'll still be As Goes Wisconsin.
You would cry, so just look at them and sigh. And know they love you.
Fear you may be missing out? We're always streaming on TuneIn and the Civic Media app. Enjoy listening live or catch up by finding the podcast at civicmedia.us or wherever you enjoy listening to your podcasts.
This is Pat Greitlow from Up North News Radio. On the air, online, or on demand, make it a point to catch the first word on Wisconsin news, sports, and more weekday mornings from 6 to 8 all across the stations of the Civic Media Radio Network.
Hey there, fellow working class heroes. I'm Rick Smith, host of The Rick Smith Show, and we are now on the air in Waukesha, live weeknights 8 to 10 p.m. right here on WAUK 540 AM, 101 FM The Shaw. Turn on, tune in, and help us rebuild the American dream. Check out our website at thericksmithshow.com. The Rick Smith Show, where working people come to talk. Weeknights 8 to 10 p.m. right here on WAUK 540 AM, 101 FM The Shaw.
Look through your children's eyes, and you will discover the true magic of a forest.
Find a forest near you and start exploring at discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Being a father is an honor, a challenge, a duty, a celebration, and a testimony. I want to be legendary for you because I found everything to live for.
That's dedication. Visit fatherhood.gov to hear more. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Here's your updated forecast on the Shaw. Daytime highs approaching 35 this afternoon under cloudy skies, northerly winds 8 to 15 miles an hour. A few flurries possible at times tonight. Lows level off around 25. Cloudy skies expected. Cloudy skies again tomorrow. High temperatures reach up to 32. A dusting of snow tonight. For Civic Media, I'm meteorologist Derek Height. Currently, it's 34 degrees.
The Shaw 101 FM, Brookfield's choice for news talk radio. Streaming 24/7 at WAUKradio.com.
Leaving home out on the road. I've been down before.
Welcome back to As Goes Wisconsin on the Civic Media Network. A reminder that we love hearing from you. This was a topic that was brought to us that we spent the better part of an hour talking about, and it's not something that I probably would have known about until Journal Sentinel and the other news outlets talked about it.
Right.
So this is a perfect example of what's happening in the Waukesha School District, of a great topic that we would always love to be able to talk about and bring people on, and we would love to hear from you. So if you have an idea for a topic or a guest, you can always email us at asgoeswisconsin@civicmedia.us. And some of the other stories I had planned, I'm going to bump to tomorrow because
That's fine.
I went back and around this time, it was April-ish. So I think it was early April in the lead up to last year's nonpartisan spring elections and school boards. I think some of the people who were on the school board were elected in last year as far as the Waukesha School Board.
Right.
And last year, there was a lot, it was the Mequon Thiensville recall. It was a lot of activist, conservative recruited people running for school boards. And so one of the videos I made for Journal Sentinel, or one of the stories, it was kind of like, I wanted to look into the history of this. And, there are school historians who made it very easy to research this because they've already looked into this. But last year and even in 2021, 2022, Wisconsin alone had school members resign because of dysfunction and violent threats. Like I said, the attempted recall in Mequon Thiensville, it didn't actually end up going through. What?
And keep in mind that some of these people don't even have kids in these school districts. Some of the people who are doing this agitating and driving for these changes don't have children in those school districts, may not even be from Wisconsin.
Yeah. And, there's also just more and more money getting into these school board races. And so, I think originally this started with school closures and virtual learning and masks, and now I feel like CRT is less of a buzzword than it was. Now it feels much more centered on LGBTQIA plus issues. But it's interesting because it's not new to time is a flat circle, as Matthew McConaughey says. So almost a century ago, let's think about this, we had the Scopes monkey trial. And the fight over teaching evolution, which obviously then became a play and everything. But that was at school board levels. That was what you were allowed to teach. You could not teach evolution. You had to teach creationism. And that was heated, to say the least.
Yes, it was. It got hot.
And what was the play that they made out of that? Now that I can't think of it. Someone's going to correct me.
It's not 12 Angry Men. That's
no.
different
That's Juries.
Yeah.
That's also a great play. Though it does feel like something that Gregory Peck would have starred in the movie version.
Doesn't it, though? He would be Clarence Darrow, of course. Yeah.
And so, but that was a century ago. In the 60s, the John Birch Society would storm school board meetings and demand members answer, are you now or have you ever been a member of the Communist Party?
And if you don't know much about the John Birch Society, do a little reading up on it. It's fascinating.
It's entirely linked to McCarthyism and the communist and a conservative movement. But then this is what's really fascinating, if you forget this. So in 1974, there was a violent boycott over a West Virginia school board decision to include multicultural textbooks. So this whole CRT thing is not new. And it ended with like there were plots to bomb school buses.
Oh my goodness.
And then even in 1993, this was a headline from the LA Times. School boards become the religious right's new pulpit. Education, alliances of conservative Christian parents, political groups take control of panels, spark battles. And that was 30 years ago. And so this cycle of attacking or targeting school boards for a certain ideology, you know, like some of the things that I learned as far as historians kind of explaining why this happens is these are meetings that are easily accessible.
Sure.
You know, not everyone can get to Madison. Not everyone can get to DC.
Right.
And it feels, and these are people who live in your community and maybe don't feel as unapproachable or separate as your state representatives or the governor or your congressman. But it's like,
and they're less protected as well.
Oh, absolutely. And so they're in, and these meetings happen right down the street. And on top of it, you're talking about kids and people, like whenever kids are in, I mean, like I think the word I used yesterday is like as props of if you appeal to their fears about their kids, people are going to react. And like, I'm not going to say that's not a natural reaction. I don't have kids yet, but I can imagine how protective I'm going to be.
Absolutely.
But what are they afraid of? And I think it comes back to saying, like, are they afraid of that they can't control how their kids are going to see the world?
Again, because they want mini-me's. They want children who will go forth with the same worldview that they have and perpetuate that because they're right.
Yeah.
Seriously, I'm always amazed because I don't have kids. And I'm always amazed, though, by parents who are surprised that their children are independent thinkers. It's like, did you really think that they were going to just be exactly like you? You're cuckoo.
I did have a friend once, and I love this friend dearly, and it almost surprised me that she said this so boldly. And I think it had to do with because the first kid was a boy and popped out looking exactly like his dad.
Okay.
And is very much a mini. So far, he's 5.
Well, we got a ways to go.
Yes, but like, you know, and their attempt to get pregnant with a second one, she so badly wanted a girl, and she literally used those words. She's like, "I just want a mini me," and I was like, and I don't think she meant it in the way like I want her to look in. Like I think she definitely wanted her to look like her, but I don't. You know, now she's 2, so. But I remember seeing that. I was like, I'm not gonna say her name, but I was like, we'll call her Betsy. I was like, Betsy, like that's like such a weird. It's a weird thing to say,
and
but I guess
you're setting yourself up for disappointment.
Yeah,
like Sarah said,
especially because she doesn't. The kid doesn't. She got a girl, doesn't necessarily look like her.
Well, and like Sarah said, don't you want them to be the best human being they can be? Shouldn't that be the goal instead of being a better version of you?
Shouldn't you? Isn't the goal to eventually have them grow up and have them teach you something?
Yes, and go away, be an adult.
Yeah,
get out of my house.
All right. Well. When we come back, on to more fun topics. Dr. Mike is here for Dr. Mike Fixes Your Life and Your Lineup. We're going to go through some more of those small things you can do to improve your life slightly without very much effort. But if you have questions for the doctor, you can call in. All right, this is As Goes Wisconsin. Be right back.
Missed your favorite show live on air? It's easy to find what you enjoy wherever you listen to podcasts, including Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcasts. And we're always streaming on TuneIn and the Civic Media app.
I was just curious as to why you called it the Paul Revere Show.
The Paul Revere Show is named this way because the poem that we all know, the famous Ride, the poem was written to rally the troops to fight slavery and fight for democracy. And so I named the show the Paul Revere Show because I thought it was the time to get on the air and talk about democracy.
The Paul Revere Show with Mark Thompson. Listen Mondays 7 to 8 p.m. always on the Civic Media app.
Plenty of people start something great in their 40s and 50s. Getting your retirement savings on track is no different. Go to aceyourretirement.org and in 3 minutes you'll get personalized tips to help boost your retirement.
You are listening to WAUK 540 AM Jackson, W266 DR Waukesha. Always streaming on the Civic Media app.
This is CBS News on the Hour, sponsored by Liberty Mutual Insurance.
I'm Steve Kathan. The latest news on sensitive documents comes from President Biden after a search of his 2 homes in Delaware.
They discovered a small number of documents of classified markings in storage areas and file cabinets in my home and my personal library.
That's from his home in Wilmington. CBS's Weijia Jiang says the president says that review ended last night, but it's not clear when the papers were found.
The president wants the American public to know, because he keeps saying this, that he takes classified materials, classified information really seriously. And that is why he says that his team, his lawyers, alerted the Department of Justice right away. It also begs the question of why those materials ended up in his garage in the first place.
The earlier batch found at a Biden think tank back in November. CBS News has learned the Justice Department review has included interviews with multiple witnesses who may have knowledge of how the classified documents were handled. A day after resisting new GOP pressure to resign, New York Republican Congressman George Santos is pursued again.
Will you resign if your voters...
If 142 people ask for me to resign, I'll resign.
He later said he meant the 142,000 people who voted for him in November's election. Santos under fire for lying about his past. No repeat of yesterday's chaos today at the nation's airports. CBS's Chris Van Cleve on the fallout.
The FAA confirms it appears a corrupted database file kicked off this latest aviation meltdown. There's a growing list of lawmakers on Capitol Hill on both sides of the aisle demanding answers.
In court today, the man suspected in the murders of 4 Idaho college students. CBS's Lily.
I love your jacket. So good. I love it. I love it.
This court proceedings get underway.
You should have told me it was pink day.
I wear black because I just blend into the wall if I do. So
yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Pop some color in there. All right, so we'll start with the Guardian thing.
Yeah, I love it.
To see how far it takes us, and then we'll go
There's some
to the
good
questions.
ones.
And then we'll go to the. I lost.
At some point in time.
What happened?
No, I mean I think I was. I thought I went into the second week not winning because I also we all never fixed the mix-in thing, and so I ended up losing by. I had 8 wins, 6 losses, 0 ties, and I finished second.
Finished second's pretty good.
Pretty
for
good.
somebody
I
who
didn't make the playoffs last year.
Who allegedly doesn't care about it. That's pretty good.
I think Michael and you. I think both the Michaels in my life care more than I do, but it's fun.
I think you're
it's a fun
right.
thing to do.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll come back in like 4 minutes.
Okay.
One-size-fits-all insurance coverage. Liberty Mutual customizes your car and home insurance so you only pay for what you need. Liberty Mutual.
The Shaw 101 FM, WAUK 540 AM, Waukesha's only news talk station.
For Civic Media, I'm Jane Matnier with your headlines. Wisconsin's Republican lawmakers want therapists, social workers, and counselors to be able to try and change their LGBTQ patients' gender identities and sexual orientation, also known as conversion therapy. At least 20 states have outlawed conversion therapy for minors. Research shows the practice can increase the risk of suicide and depression. A ban on conversion therapy passed in 2020, but a committee in the GOP-controlled legislature temporarily blocked it and is expected to do the same today. Black and Hispanic voters in Milwaukee angry over an elected official bragging about lowering black and brown turnout in the last election. A Republican member of Wisconsin's Bipartisan Elections Commission, Robert Spindell, sent an email last month saying Republicans can be proud that 37,000 less votes were cast in overwhelmingly black and Hispanic areas. You're listening to The Shaw 101 FM, WAUK 540 AM.
It's a new year, and because we're excited about our new and still growing Civic Media network of radio stations, it's time to do something really big. How does a $1 million advertising giveaway sound to you? Our celebration is your chance to work with Civic Media's amazing sales team, creating a radio advertising campaign promoting your business for free. Save the date. The $1 million advertising giveaway is only happening on Thursday, January 26th. Full details on our website, civicmedia.us/million.
Hey, this is Jim Santel. I am the host of Morning Cannolis. Every single Saturday morning from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m., we talk about the major stories in law, in government, and the aspiration for justice in America. Delighted to have you join, call in, and be a part of our discussion right here on the networks of Civic Media.
Up North News Radio is Wisconsin's new choice for progressive talk about important state issues, from the team that brings you the news through social media, newsletters, and here on the radio. I'm Pat Kreitlow. Join me weekday mornings from 6 to 8 a.m.
My Alzheimer's diagnosis was hard to take.
But early detection allowed us to take control of the situation together.
Talk to your family about seeing a doctor. Go to alz.org/time to talk. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
The Shaw 101 FM, your fix for progressive talk. From Big Bend to Menominee Falls. Always streaming at WAU.
As Goes Wisconsin with Kristen Bry is an independent product and has a joint sales agreement with Civic Media. Enjoy.
Is your love life a fantasy? Having issues with your fantasy football roster? Helping with football and your love life? Here's your new best friend, Dr. Mike.
Because I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and doggone it, people like me.
So live your life. You steady dressing up that car, just live your life.
Welcome back to As Goes Wisconsin. Thank you for joining us today at the 1 o'clock hour. As always, you can join the conversation at 844-967-2789. And especially because the doctor is in. Dr. Michael McCutcheon is here. And if this is your first time listening to this segment, this is the segment where Dr. Michael McCutcheon, who is an executive coach, and he specializes in career achievement and life satisfaction, joins us to tackle topics like career, love, fitness, and family. And he also helps us make easy, free money on FanDuel and DraftKings. But he also happens to be my best friend of 15 years. So we have a lot of fun in this segment. Welcome back. How's your week going, friend?
It's going great. It's so great to be here. I love that this happened on Thursday afternoon. It's such a little dangling carrot for me to just get to Thursday afternoon. Kristen and Jane will say some funny things and make you feel good. It was a wild Monday through Wednesday, but today's been great with you two on my calendar. So looking forward to it.
Well, a little bit of a throwback because last week we discussed forks and which direction forks go in. So I think Mike had an update for you, Jane.
Oh, the great dishwasher debate.
Jane, I got to tell you something. You can ask Kristen. I just out of the blue texted her a few days ago. Tell Jane thank you. We now put forks up in the dishwasher in our house, and they are sparkling. They're gorgeous. So thank you very much. I love that, like, the advice on this list that we're going to go through from The Guardian, Kristen, specifically says, don't freak out about the dishwasher. And Jane and I took it the opposite direction and said, freak out about the dishwasher has made us happier.
Or at least when it comes to forks. And of course, we were talking about the 100 ways to slightly improve your life without really trying. This is a list that was published by The Guardian on January 1st. And so we said, we'll just read 5 per day. 2 weeks in a row now, we have not done it while Greg is here on Wednesday. So we've had 10 to go through with Mike on Thursday. And so we figured we might as well catch up and do it again. And so we are going to start with number 31, which is ask questions and listen to the answers. Which I think is, as someone who now is paid to interview people, it's good to listen to what the answer is to the question that you asked.
It's a tougher skill than people realize to actually listen.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of people ask questions because they want to say their answer to it, right? I'm only asking you so that I can give you advice, but I think like we can learn a lot about our friends and loved ones by actually listening to their answers. And I mean, I don't know about you all, but how often in life do you really feel like somebody's actually listening to you? Like, what a gift that is, right? To actually have somebody say, "How are you doing?" And you're like, "Actually, I just lost my job and I have the flu and I don't feel very good." Like, okay, I didn't just ask you that just so I could say I'm doing great. I got a promotion and got engaged, right? You want to actually give people the gift of listening. So yeah, we all can do that a little bit more, I think.
All right, number 32, connect with nature. Stand outside barefoot for a few minutes, even when it's cold. The cold thing, my brother's been trying to convince me to start taking cold showers.
Yeah.
Why?
Because it's supposed to be good for your circulation. It's supposed to be good for your energy levels and like all of this stuff as far as like adrenaline, and it gets you pumping. And so he's on this whole, I forgot who the person is that's telling him to do this. I'm not there yet, but I will say I was very, and granted, our winter has not been that bad yet, besides the week around Christmas. But I was a little nervous because at our old place, taking Cliff, like we could just put him outside because we had a fenced-in yard. And now we do not have that, so we actually have to take him for a walk. And it's nice. I was a little nervous about how it was going to be in the winter, and even when it's cold. I mean, I'm not doing it barefoot because it's River West, but I am spending more time outside, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate that for you. I'm not going to do it. I don't like this one. I don't like it. And I'm being honest. No, I don't want to stand outside barefoot. I'll give you barefoot on a beach, or I'll give you a sandal. I'm not walking outside barefoot. I don't like it. I don't want to do it.
But you're not anti-outdoors. You're pro-nature.
No. It's good. Anti-nature. Yeah, no, I'm pro-nature for sure. Absolutely. I stand outside barefoot. And to your brother Ben's advice, I think like if you have a shower, like when you clean yourself, nice hot water, soap, fine, and you can do like 15 to 30 seconds at the end for like the cold thing to give you energy or whatever, that's fine. But anything more than that feels a little.
He says 60 seconds.
That seems like an eternity. But yeah, he can walk outside barefoot and take a cold shower. I think this one's asking too much out of me.
There's 99 other things I can do on this list. All right. Speaking of which, number 33 is join your local library and use it. I need to go Milwaukee Public Library.
It's great.
It's great. Got to start using it more and stopping by. It also is just such a beautiful building. Are you a member at your local library in Denver?
Yeah, I don't know if I'm a member, but I've gone. Yeah, and it's nice. They have some nice ones here. I just think some of them are a little hit and miss. Some of them it feels like a hangout. I like to go to places if I want to read or work that's actually quiet, and sometimes I feel like people are hanging out in there, or just kind of like milling around. They've got nowhere else to be. So I think you got to like join like one of your city's libraries. Maybe the one closest to you is not the best one, but yeah, I think if it's quiet, yeah, go. But otherwise, I don't know. I just feel like sometimes people are just talking and on their phones and stuff, and I'm easily distracted enough on my own. I don't need that, All
right, fair enough. All right, number 34, similar to 31, go for a walk without your phone.
Yeah, you love this?
I mean, I try. Jane's a big proponent of this, of just not having earphones in, not listening to any music or podcasts, just listening to whatever is happening outside.
It's great.
Right?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
It grounds you to nature. If you're always wearing headphones, if you're always listening to something, I think you're missing out on the birds and the squirrels and I don't know, whatever. I just think it's important to be where you are. And part of that is hearing what's going on around you.
100% agree. Don't you also just feel like even in general, just like leaving your phone away from you for 30 minutes at all, right? It's so nice. We went to a movie this past weekend. We saw Avatar actually, which is like more than 30 minutes. It's like 3 hours and 15 minutes long. And just like not having access to your phone, like it has to be off and away. It's such a relief, actually. It's so nice. So I'm with you, Jane. Let's no more phones on the walk.
All right, I feel like we can all get on board with number 35. Eat salted butter. Life's too short for unsalted. Down.
Yeah,
Agreed.
Thank you.
Agreed.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Unsalted is really just for baking. Is that right? You're supposed to use that for baking?
If you want to control the salt in the recipe. Yeah.
Right.
Meh. All right. 36. Stretch in the morning and maybe in the evening.
Add this to the list of things that a great idea that I never do.
I've actually started doing this.
You do it in the morning, right?
I do it in the morning, and it's replaced actually breaking a sweat and going to the gym after the show like I should. But at least in the morning, I have like a little yoga routine, like 20-minute routine that I stretch and I do it. And it's been the days that I do it versus the days that I don't. I can tell a difference, and it also just feels like I did something.
That's great. Will you remind me? Text me when you're doing it because you're an hour ahead of me. So when you're doing it, text me and then I'll do it too. I want to try it too. That sounds like a really healthy thing. I'm glad you're doing that.
It's not like a full workout. It's just like cat, camel, maybe a little like yoga one, warrior one.
Hello, sun.
Hello, sun. Child's pose. But it gets you like feeling. It's a reminder of how unflexible I actually am. All right, 37. If you're going less than a mile, walk or cycle. About half of cars' journeys are under 2 miles, yet these create more pollution than longer journeys as the engine isn't warmed up yet. That feels like a hard one to do in the winter in Wisconsin.
It depends if I will walk to our little local grocery store, which is maybe 20 minutes, which isn't terrible. But yeah, when it's 20 degrees.
When it's 20 degrees, and it's also, you have to live in a place that is walkable.
Yeah.
So many of the suburbs, even Milwaukee itself now, I think unless you live in like Tosa Village or, because like even downtown, like I think we have a corner market that we can walk to.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like walking to the actual like Kroger's grocery store, certainly it's more than a mile walking there and back, but then you got to carry all that stuff there and back.
Do you guys have bikes, you and Mike?
We have one bike that is very flat. We have to blow up.
Yeah.
All right, we got to get through these because we got 3 left and 2 minutes left before break. All right, sleep with your phone in a different room and buy an alarm clock. 100%. I've been trying to do this, but
you got to do it.
I know. It's more that I fall asleep on my phone scrolling through things stupidly instead of reading a book. But this is something that I've been trying to do, and then have my Apple Watch be my alarm clock.
You don't have an alarm clock? You don't have that?
We have one, but I feel like my watch, because the how the watch wakes you up is actually very nice because it's a little, it's not as jarring. It's like slightly vibrates and like brings you out of your REM cycle into being like, oh, it is time to wake up, versus the poor alarm that I have on my phone right now for both my timer and my alarm, which is a doorbell, which Cliff loves, I have to tell you.
That's so good.
All right. Number 39, send postcards from your holidays. Send them even if you're not on holiday.
I think this is a nice one. Who doesn't like getting a postcard? I like getting them. I like sending them. It's great.
Yeah. Something in the mail besides bills. All right. And then number 40, instead of buying new shoes, get old shoes resold and buy new laces.
We just did this. We just sent our shoes to a cobbler, like that you send them in the mail to them and they send them back to you, and they came back brand new.
This is like a service? Like it wasn't like a local cobbler? I love that word. It feels so old timey.
Yeah.
What was the name of the service?
I will find out for you, and we can tell the listeners what it is. But like the name cobbler is like in the title. I'll send it to you, and they look honestly brand new. Because if you fall in love with a pair of shoes, it's so hard to get rid of them, right?
Well, especially nice shoes. Like shoes that are like $100, $200 that you're like, these are, I like these shoes a lot. All right, well, that will do it for 10 ideas of easy ways to improve your life without a lot of effort. And so we will continue doing those tomorrow and for the rest of the month. But when we come back, Dr. Mike will still be here. If you have any questions for the doctor, let us know, 844-967-2789, either about your life or your lineup. But for now, we're taking a break. This is As Goes Wisconsin.
Ladies of the night, grease monkey, ex-junkie, winner of the fight. Walking on the streets, it's really all the same. Selling souls, rock and roll, any other game. Working for a living, working for a living, working for a living, living and a working. I'm taking what they're giving 'cause I'm working for a living. Working for a living, living and a working. I'm taking what they're giving 'cause I'm working for a living. Working for a living, living and a working.
Hey, this is Matt from Design Garden. Remember when the internet was new? Back then, you had to leave your house to start a business. Companies used to pay programmers bags of cash to get online. Now, small businesses can get online with a Facebook business page, or Squarespace, or Google My Business, or WordPress. But which tools should you use? Can you afford to go down the wrong path? Design Garden uses modern tools to build your website the right way. Find us online at design.garden. Again, that's design.garden.
27% of the American workforce, and some even say 30%, were in unions who had representation and who clearly did not have to worry about whether or not they were going to get their fair share. But I'm definitely going to fight for people who get the short end of the stick in this society only because they don't have representation. That's who I am.
Check out the Earl Ingram Show every day from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. only on WAUK 540 AM 101 FM, The Shaw.
My Shiro always goes the extra mile, stretches every dollar, puts others first. But now it's your time, Mom. Get free tips to help boost your retirement savings now at aceyourretirement.org.
Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
You are listening to your local Civic Media radio station on air. Thank you. Did you know we are always streaming on TuneIn and the Civic Media app too? And if you miss a show or game, find it wherever you get your podcasts or on our website, civicmedia.us.
Here's your updated forecast on the Shaw. Daytime highs approaching 35 this afternoon under cloudy skies, northerly winds 8 to 15 miles an hour. A few flurries possible at times tonight. Lows level off around 25. Cloudy skies expected. Cloudy skies again tomorrow. High temperatures reach up to 32. A dusting of snow tonight. For Civic Media, I'm meteorologist Derek Height. Currently, it's 34 degrees.
WAUK 540 AM. Franklin's choice for News Talk Radio. Streaming 24/7 at WAUKradio.com.
Personal foul. 69, offense. He was giving them the business.
Is your love life a fantasy? Having issues with your fantasy football roster? Helping with football and your love life? Here's your new best friend, Dr. Mike.
Because I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and doggone it, people like me.
Welcome back to As Goes Wisconsin with Christian Bry. This is the segment we like to call Dr. Mike Fixes Your Life and Your Lineup, where Dr. Michael McCutcheon answers your questions about fitness, love, career, but also answers questions about fantasy football and making bets on FanDuel and DraftKings. We have a question?
We do. Text her from the 608 at 844-967-2789. For Dr. Mike, I'm heading to Vegas this weekend. Want your thoughts as what's easier to bet this weekend, prop bets or individual player stats, point spreads, or over-under?
Ooh, I kind of like the player stuff, the prop bets, who's going to get how many yards, who's going to get, how many touchdowns. I think that's going to be easier to do. I mean, the playoffs are always a time where anything goes, right? So like a lot of these games are Minnesota's supposed to win by 3 or Dallas is supposed to win by 2. That's so close, right? Where you can miss on either side of that really easily. But you have a hunch like Mahomes is going to show out, right, and be fantastic, and Brady's probably going to be great, and Jamar Chase and people are going to be great. So I would go with player bets, prop bets, yards, touchdown, fun things like that. And I think we'll get to that a little bit later with some of these questions that were already asked as far as like what to bet on. So we've got some fun ones for you. So keep listening.
There will be no Packers, though. You were wrong.
I almost
again.
said Aaron Rodgers. I almost said, Aaron Rodgers.
How many did you end up getting wrong for the Packers?
About the Packers?
I think you maybe got one right all season.
That's actually generous of you. Thank you. I don't know. I mean, I think next year it should be. I tell you what to do on all these other things and what I tell you to do on the Packers. I'm not even kidding. Genuinely do the opposite of what I say for the Packers. Truly.
Do you, because everyone obviously in this state is talking about it, do you have a feeling if that was the last time we're seeing Aaron Rodgers as a Packer as he walked off with Randall Cobb?
I just don't understand how he could. I feel like I know he's got a lot of money, but 1 year to play with a good team that's only going to get better. He had young receivers; they're only going to get better, to make somewhere between $50 and $60 million, depending on how you carve it up. And it's already his place. Sure, I mean, could he go someplace like the Bay Area where he used to be and go play for the Niners? Yeah, but can they afford $55 million for him? Like, do they have that much room in their budget? I don't know if they do. I again bet the opposite, everybody. But I do think he's probably coming back. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, because we only have a couple minutes left, we'll just stick with football. So,
Great.
without my league is over, I got second, which is not bad considering that I didn't even make the playoffs last year. And
That's
so, we have not. The text thread has been pretty quiet as far as I'm not sure how many people were paying attention, but I was happy. I was happy with where I ended. Thank you for all of your help. And now I don't know what.
You might have come in first of Michael Sampson and minded his own business there for
That's
a few
true.
weeks, getting out of our way. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
that is true. Let's blame him.
That's right.
But also, so now that we'll get to some bets to take, but who are you cheering for in the playoffs now? I mean, I don't even know. I have to decide who I'm cheering for now that the Packers aren't in there.
As one of our mutual contacts would say, we're just hoping that everybody has a really good time and they have a lot of fun and nobody gets hurt doing it. Honestly, in the NFC, I'm kind of rooting for San Francisco. You and I used to live there. They're a really fun team. They're great. I don't know why, I've always loved Jalen Hurts. He's the quarterback for the Eagles. He was the quarterback for Alabama, and he's always been.
He back?
He's back. Yeah.
Okay.
He won. He played last week. He won. But they have this whole week off because they're the number one seed. So it's even more time to get healthy. I just root for Jalen Hurts. So I'll have a hard time if they're down there in the Final Four. I have a hard time rooting against him because I just really, really love that guy. He's great. So them there, and then AFC. God, I don't know. Bills or Bengals, I guess. No.
Bills, I feel like have now become like the
America's
team. Favorite. I know.
Yeah.
I feel like between it's Josh Allen, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's so cute, and
so
it's
lovable.
hard not to
Everybody
root
loves
for that team after Damar Hamlin is
Who's home?
out of the hospital. He's at home,
Yeah.
but it's hard not to be emotionally attached to them now. But all right, so the playoffs are here, and this is a super wild card weekend. So what's the best bet to make this weekend? If someone is new to gambling online, what's the best bet you think is the safest of them all? Not that, and no bet is actually safe.
Kristen, that's right. Disclaimer.
You are betting.
That's why they say betting. Kristen's got a husband named Mike, but she has a boyfriend named Josh Allen. And I would bet on Josh Allen if I were you. I really assumed that his over-under for touchdown would be 2.5, meaning, as we learned this year, right, Kristen? That means he's got to throw more than 3 in order for it to win. It's only 1.5. So if he throws 2 or more touchdowns against the Dolphins, who are going to be a hot mess. They don't have their starting quarterback, Tua. They don't have their backup quarterback, Teddy Bridgewater. They're going with a third string quarterback who's a rookie. So I just think the Bills are going to have the ball all game long. I don't think the Dolphins are going to have the ball. So there is a bet on DraftKings. If Josh Allen throws over 1.5 touchdowns, which means 2 or more touchdowns, it's plus 155, meaning if you bet $100, you don't win $100, you win $155. Or if you bet $10, you win $15.50. That's a great bet. As my friend AJ likes to say, hammer the over on that to hit over 1.5 touchdowns, Josh Allen to make 155.
All right, there you go. Heard it here first. All right, next question. What about a fun bet? One that's off the beaten path. What is something people can bet on if they want to be creative with how to win free money? I like how you keep calling it free money.
And you got to make it quick.
We got to make it quick. Okay.
Okay, bet on have some fun. Bet on Tom Brady to beat the Cowboys. Monday Night Football. If you bet on them straight up, then you win $120 for $100 or $12 for $10. So bet on the Bucs to beat the Cowboys, and Tom Brady keeps it alive.
All right. Well, thank you so much for that. We'll see you next week, Dr. Mike. Stick around. The beer baron, Chris Drosner, is here next for some beer news in Wisconsin. This is As Goes Wisconsin.
So why don't you save us all some time and give up now? She's back.
The Shaw 101 FM, New Berlin's choice for news talk radio. Streaming 24/7 at WAUKradio.com.
CBS News special report. The Justice Department just announced it's appointing a special counsel to oversee the investigation into documents marked classified found at President Biden's former think tank and home. Attorney General Merrick Garland says he's been working on the matter with U.S. Attorney John Lausch.
Based on Mr. Lausch's initial investigation, I concluded that under the special counsel regulations, it was in the public interest to appoint a special counsel.
That special counsel will be former U.S. Attorney Robert Hur, who has a long history of investigating everything from counterterrorism and violent crime to public corruption. Earlier today, President Biden commented on the discoveries.
People know I take classified documents and classified material seriously. I also said we're cooperating fully and completely with the Justice Department's review.
The Attorney General says the special counsel's investigation is expected to start in the coming days. CBS News special report. I'm Monica Ricks.
A progressive voice from Beaver Dam to Kenosha. WAUK 540 AM. Always streaming at WAUKradio.com.
For Civic Media, I'm Terry Bell with this news. Governor Evers' efforts to legalize recreational marijuana are likely up in smoke. That's
Hello, sir.
Speaker Robin Voss tells the Journal
Hello.
Sentinel.
How you doing? How you feeling?
Good.
Not COVID?
No, just a cold.
Just a cold.
I've been building a pinball roundup for the magazine. So a lot of bar going and pinball playing.
And a lot of touching of the things that are...
A lot of touching of the things that everybody else touches, yes.
No, that'll happen. All right, well, I feel like we'll come back and I'll just kind of throw open-ended what's going on and we'll just go into the first topic.
Okay, the West Allen closing?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, yeah, the West Allis one.
Marquette beat UConn last night, 82-76. You're listening to The Shaw, 101 FM, WAUK 540 AM.
Women hear a lot about self-care these days. Advice on ways to relax, exercise, eat healthy, and more. Those are all great. But one of the most important self-care steps we can take is making sure we're financially secure later in life. That means saving money for retirement. It's never too late to start, and it's the kind of self-care that brings peace of mind that lasts. For small steps you can take to save for retirement, visit WeSaySaveIt.org. That's WeSaySaveIt.org. A message from AARP and the Ad Council.
Pat, I feel like all the women we have on our show, like our co-hosts, always get too famous for us, and then
I would just like to think that we are fertile ground from which they can blossom. We are the manure from which they spring.
The manure from which they spring. I was gonna say holding fort, but I think your metaphor is way better.
Up North News Radio with Pat Krylo airs at its new time from 6 to 8 a.m. weekdays across Civic Media.
Hi, I'm Smokey Bear, and I made an assistant to help you prevent wildfires.
Dude, I've got this. I've been camping since I was 5 years old. But I am a camping influencer. You know what? I'll bet you $5. Assistant Smokey, what is the best way to put out a campfire?
To put out a campfire, drown with water, stir, drown again. Then make sure the fire is out cold by feeling with the back of your hand.
Wait, really?
I'll take the $5.
Learn more at SmokeyBear.com.
Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
If you can plan barbecues and weddings, you can plan to protect yourself from a natural disaster. Sign up for local alerts, prepare an emergency kit, and make a family communications plan. Get started at ready.gov/plan.
Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
Torn this boy apart like a neon dream. It just don't know me. The bars in this guitar and long neck ice cold beer never broke my heart.
Welcome back to As Goes Wisconsin. No matter where you're listening across the Civic Media Network or on the Civic Media app, thank you for tuning in. If you missed any part of today's show, you can always go back and listen to the podcast. Listen to the whole show, listen to the parts that you want to listen to, which you can find at asgoeswisconsin.com or wherever you find podcasts. And returning champ back again to give us some updates and stories about beer across Wisconsin. Chris Drosner is here, who is the executive editor of Milwaukee Magazine and also the columnist of the Beer Baron, which she writes for Wisconsin State Journal. Welcome back. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me back.
So, what have we missed since I think we talked before Christmas? But what have we missed as far as, or what's new in the beer world?
Well, we always kind of we talk a lot about openings and like all the new breweries, but we kind of got a bummer of a story this time. So kind of, we talked about this a little bit last week, is that if you love something, make sure you support it. And I'm not sure exactly if this is the situation here, but we lost a brewery in the Milwaukee area last week. It was West Alien Brewing in West Allis closed. And this was the first brewery in West Allis, which is a kind of an industrial suburb of Milwaukee. And it's a very small brewery. I mean, this is, this brewery is kind of the epitome of like what the breweries that are continuing to drive the brewery boom of the last several years is a neighborhood place. They make their own beer, but I think it kind of the function of this place is as much a gathering place and a meeting place for the neighborhood, for the community, that as much as it is like a place where you're going for great beer, and it had a 5-year run, opened in 2017, which was a time when there were like maybe 10 breweries that opened in the Milwaukee area in that year. So there was a lot going on here, and brewery people, I think, don't really like to talk about competition a whole lot, but West Allis, this was the first craft brewery in West Allis in 2017, but 2 opened this year, and another opened I think in 2020. So, and one of them was really big. Oak Brewing in just up the street is like really
they're
big.
that close?
Yeah, well, yeah, actually not too far away. Most of the breweries are kind of on the east side of West Allis. So, and Ope is like a big brewery that has packaging capabilities, and so I think that's geared to be a little bit different kind of operation, but it also has a really awesome tap room that's really great to be in. And West Alien had a nice tap room, super nice people. Kim and Eric Dorfner were the owners, and I had a night there once. It was a friend of mine and myself were at a bar called the Drunk Uncle, and anybody who knows,
I know Drunk Uncle.
Yeah, anybody in the Milwaukee area probably know about the Drunk Uncle and what happens there. The owner Neil was talking to us, and he's like, "You guys haven't been over to West Allen? We're going right now." So we just walk the.
He just leaves his bar.
Yeah, we just
abandons it.
Let's go. And they gave us a tour of the brewery. As such, this is pretty small. They had this dog. Oh my God, she's so sweet. Her name's Alice, like at West Allis. Amazing, really nice folks. And so I think that's the kind. I mean, obviously that was a different kind of thing because of my, like, as a beer journalist, you see things that or you get access to things that not everybody does, but I do think that that's kind of representative of what they were about. They were about like special touch, like being
community,
good neighbors, and being friendly and engage in the community. So it's kind of a bummer. I don't think their beer was awesome. They were really known for their candy corn beer. They made a beer with candy, like a cream ale, I think, with candy corn, for Halloween. And they had a few other kind of goofball beers like that. But I had a friend who ranked all 40 of the Milwaukee area breweries at the time. I think this was like last year sometime. And he ranked West Alien dead last out of 40 breweries. So I mean, it's not, I don't think they were known for spectacular beer. But it kind of doesn't really matter in my like, the way that they were serving the community wasn't about making amazing IPAs and that kind of stuff. It was about connecting and giving place of people to gather and have a beer to talk about, more so than just, like, oh my gosh, you got to try this. I'm going to tell all my friends about it, kind of thing.
And what is, in your experience of, you've been doing the Beer Baron column for 11 years now?
Yes.
11 years. And so you know a thing or two about the breweries that have come and gone. So is there a balance between, for ones that survive and succeed, the balance between how good the beer is, what the vibe is at the actual tap room, how good the marketing is? Like, is there a pattern that you see, or is it kind of, you can get away if you do one of those three good, you can be successful?
Yeah, I think those are probably the three things that are the biggest factors. And I'll say, like, we haven't had a lot of closures, so it's hard to say, I mean, if the beer is just terrible, like, that's going to be a problem. If the branding is just not like good, that can be a problem. And if the space isn't good, that's especially going to be a problem. But I think that if you can pull off one of those three, and is kind of the bare minimum. There's also the factor the factors that we don't see, like how well the business is actually run, like how well capitalized they are, access, the stuff that's kind of invisible that affects all businesses that aren't necessarily coming through in in the, like, say, the taproom experience, or the actual beer or anything like that. So it's some combination of those three that can guarantee success. Yeah.
Yeah. We're talking to Chris Drosner, who's the executive editor of Milwaukee Magazine and also the author of the Beer Baron column for the Wisconsin State Journal. And speaking of magazines, tell me about MilMag Beer.
Yes. Oh, this is so exciting. We actually had our launch party for it last night. It's called Page Turner Pilsner, and it's made by Eagle Park, which is a brewery based in Muskego. And we had the launch party last night at their Eastside Milwaukee tap room, and it is so cool. It's for our 40th anniversary, and
so was this your idea to partner with them and to have a Milwaukee Magazine beer? I'm guessing it had to be you.
Yeah. Yes. I'll take credit for it. Yes. Kind of. I mean, when it was actually okay. So the real idea was actually from our editor-in-chief, Carol Nixon, but as soon as she said it, I'm like, oh my God, why did I not think of that? I was so embarrassed that it wasn't my idea. But yeah, the Eagle Park was the first brewery that we asked, and they were super great to work with. It's a Pilsner, so we wanted to do something kind of traditional, but give it kind of a modern spin. We thought that was a good kind of metaphor for what we do as a magazine. And so this is a kind of a classic German Pilsner with the kind of the twist is they used a hop variety called Ella in them, which is it's an Australian variety that has a little bit of kind of a little, like, it's kind of a floral spicy note that's kind of familiar, that would be in characteristic, I guess, of a German Pilsner. But it also has some of these kind of citrus grapefruit aspects too that's not typical in a Pils. So it's great, and I drank quite a few of them last night, and it's exciting. This is not just like you go to Eagle Park and have the MilMag beer. This will be in cans in like at Sendik's and all your kind of classic your standard bottle shops all around the country, or all around the metro area.
Is it going to be limited edition for like a limited time only though? Or is it going to be like in perpetuity, as long as it sells well, we're going to sell this thing?
I don't think so. This is going to be. I think this is going to be a one-off batch. So once it's out, if you want to get it, then you should. You don't wait for the second purchase because I think it's going to be. It'll be hitting stores next week, and then maybe a week or two, or depends on how fast it goes. But this will be it.
Well, and also this ties into. I mean, you guys have had a big. I don't know if we want to say week. I guess was it last week that the Milwaukee Public Museum story came out that has caused a lot of ripple, at least online. It's caused a lot of ripples as far as, because that was the interview, right? As far as the understanding of what's going to happen with the exhibit, the beloved exhibits.
Yes. So in our January, the story's in our January issue, and we published it digitally last week, I believe, and then Sunday night, Milwaukee Record posted a story about MPM posted our story saying, just onto their Facebook, and everybody, people started reading the story, and there's a line in there where they say none of the exhibits will be moving in their entirety to the new facility. And that's that the transition is kind of what the interview was about. It's a Q&A with two of the executives of the museum, and that line, that's not a direct quote, something like that.
But it was not the main part of your article. What's not really. Yeah.
I mean, there was a lot of stuff in there, and we knew that was an interesting line, but it's just one line of many in the entire story. So, but that started getting a lot of attention. People were kind of freaking out about, like, kind of coming to terms with Streets of Old Milwaukee is not going to be in the new the new museum, at least in its present form. And they never said it was. They never really have. They
made no promises.
All the messaging that MPM has done about the new thing is that things are going to be different, and there will be elements of old things, but not things in their entirety. So it's kind of one of those things of, like, everybody kind of just realizing what they've been saying. But the Journal Sentinel did a story. Like, there's been all kinds of stories react on the reaction to this to our story. So that's exciting. And then the other big one that we've had was there was we right after Christmas, we published a story by Ellie Fishman, who's a freelance writer that we work with a lot, about some pretty serious problems at Columbia St. Mary's Hospital. She's been working on this for about 4 months, talking to current and former staff about the staffing shortages and what that's meant for surgeries, and some of the stuff is pretty concerning. And so that story, even during all this dust up about the museum and all the attention that story has been getting, that story is still our top trending story.
Yeah. And we'll link that to today's episode. So Chris is still going to be here when we come back. We're going to talk about how I'm doing with Dry January and some of the beers I should try and have tried. Stick with us. This is As Goes Wisconsin.
It's easy to listen to your favorite local radio station anytime. Download the Civic Media app from the Apple or Google Play Store.
All right. Well, we will link all that stuff in today's episode. But then I've tried, I'll say when we come back what I've been trying and what else you think I should try. Because so far, we're on the 12 days. I've had one glass of wine until 12 days, so I'm doing pretty good. And so we can talk about different NA beer and anything else you want to promote as far as
dry-ish.
I'm staying pretty dry. We'll see. My mom's coming to visit this weekend, and she has made it very clear that she is drinking. And so so we'll see if I fall under feeling like, all right, fine, Mom, I'll have a drink with you. But she's like, I'm not doing this. I'm too old. I'm doing what I want. Okay, Mom.
Yeah.
But yeah, but pretty dry.
Are you in the do you use any other mind altering substances?
I've been pretty good there too. I've been trying to just test out this month as far as like what I can do to not feel groggy in the morning ahead of the show.
You care for
Yeah.
the house.
It's
the
so far
kids,
so
and our
so
future.
good. And
A Shannon's Day is
so
never
we'll
The-
see.
the-
We'll see if I can stick it up,
Start
like stick
saving
it
a
through
little more now.
past
Get free tips to help boost
this
your
month. But
I had a
Visit
friend who
AARetirement.org.
I think he called
all right, we
it
gotta wrap up.
high January,
Oh,
high and dry,
high and dry.
things like that.
Cloudy this afternoon with highs around 35. Winds out of the north 8 to 15 miles an hour. Cloudy again tonight. A few flurries possible at times. Lows around 25. High temperatures reach up to 32. Tomorrow, cloudy skies. Temperatures a bit above average Saturday and Sunday with highs from the mid-30s to the upper 30s. For Civic Media, I'm meteorologist Derek Height. Currently, it's 34 degrees.
WAUK 540 AM, New Berlin's choice for news talk radio. Streaming 24/7 at WAUKradio.com.
Welcome back to As Goes Wisconsin. As we wrap up today's show, Chris Strosner is still here, and he is the executive editor of Milwaukee Magazine and pens the Beer Baron column for the Wisconsin State Journal. And when you were here last month, we talked about going into, for those of us who are doing dry January, and I can now report that I have tried 2 different beers from Athletic Brewing Company for all out extra dark, which is very good. I don't know if you've tried that one. I'm very impressed with that. And then they're also their IPA, which is also good. I think I like the extra dark more. I did try, which is not a Wisconsin beer, but Lagunitas, their NA IPA, which I've been a fan of. But which other ones, now that we're not even quite halfway through the month, would you say I should try as I'm exploring these? Not any cheaper. They're really not any cheaper than normal beer.
No.
But it tricks your brain a little bit, enough that I'm managing through this dry January.
So tell me about this extra dark. Is that like a stout style or?
Yeah, it's a porter stout.
Okay.
So it's also what I was really impressed with. I think we talked about briefly. Guinness has an NA that tastes like Guinness, which I was wildly impressed with. But this one, I think that's why I like this one, because there's a lot of flavor while still being non-alcoholic.
Yeah, if that's the direction that you're looking at, you might want to check out. I actually mentioned this last month, but Untitled Art has, which is made in Waunakee. They have a full line of NA beers, and those follow in this kind of the footsteps of their regular beers, which are super intense flavors, nothing subtle, lots of like pastry stouts. It's kind of pastry stouts and like super hazy IPAs and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what they do in their regular beer space, and they have a bunch of that stuff in the NA space as well. So you can kind of try with like chocolate stouts, and they've got a really nice Italian Pilsner that I enjoyed quite a bit. I also neglected to mention last month that I mentioned Lakefront's River West Stein NA. They have 2 new beers, 2 new NA beers that dropped, I think, in time for dry January, and that's an NA version of another one of their longtime standards, Eastside Dark, which is like a Dunkel lager, dark lager, and then Extended Play IPA, which was Lakefront's Session IPA back when that was a thing, and it was really good. It was great. I didn't love that style trend a whole lot, but Lakefront's Extended IPA or Extended Play IPA was one of the better entries in there, and they brought that back as a NA beer. So if you're looking for something a little hoppy, that's the way to go. And have you ever tried any of these hop waters?
I haven't yet.
They're pretty good. I haven't had a lot of them. I've had the Lagunitas one is good, but brewery called Fair State out of Minnesota has a bunch of. They have a whole series of them featuring different hops. So it's not like they're not bitter. It's just you kind of get that kind of aromatic, citrusy, and profile kind of transposed onto it. It's essentially like mineral water or like LaCroix, except you're using like the hop ingredient as the flavoring instead of like fruit stuff and that sort of thing.
Pummel mousse.
Chris, as a non-beer drinker, I have to say hop water sounds like hop backwash.
You don't want to try one?
No, it just does not sound appealing to me.
They're pretty good. Yeah, I mean, I think of it. Hops are super herbal and like, I mean, they're essentially like they're little flower cones that are packed with all these weird things that do interesting things to beer, and of course make them bitter. But that's not. They don't really. You can use them in ways that you don't get that bitterness. So this is kind of like this herbal, citrusy. There's a lot of different ways that you can go with depending on the variety of hop. And so I don't know if that sounds like it's. I mean, if you don't like IPAs or like hoppy beers, then I wouldn't recommend it. But it's if you're looking for something different, they're a lot brighter and kind of more. I'd say probably more refreshing than kind of the standard NA beers.
So what's coming up on the show next week? Because you guys have your beer podcast next week, right?
We do. We'll be covering. We'll be talking about West Alien, and we've got a whole bunch of news. It's been a little bit. This winter. Winter is kind of a slow period for news, and I honestly do not mind catching my breath and and having a few slow months. But yeah, Badger Beer Hour is our monthly live stream that'll be next Wednesday night at 8 p.m. You can find it on my Twitter, and that's probably the easiest place to find it.
And your Twitter is WI Beer Baron?
WI Beer Baron, 1R. Not
go.
like Barron County. Baron, like
Baron. Like
the lowest form of nobility.
All right. Well, anything else you want the people to know before we wrap up today's show?
I'm just gonna put a plug in for the MilMag January issue. It has our redesign in it, so it's just a great issue. I was the editor on our 40th anniversary feature, which brings in a whole bunch of different like looking back at 40 years of magazines and picking out the most outrageous stuff to kind of bring back. It was super fun, and I think it's a great read. So
all right. Pick it up at Sendex, pick it up at other local grocery stores. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm a subscriber, so I will get it in the mail. So I'm very excited to see it. But thank you so much, Chris Dosner. We'll see you again next month when I will likely be drinking again. So we'll get back on that horse. But that'll about do it for us today. Stick around for Dueling Tangents with Luke and Brian, unless you're listening to WXCO in Wausau. Then you got the Chad Holmes Show coming up next. But as always, thank you for listening to our show today. Thank you to everyone who texted or called in. We will be back tomorrow at 11 a.m. when we're going to do it all again. And Jane, are you giving me the sign that
I think we're done dancing.
We're done dancing.
We're done dancing.
We're done dancing.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this has been As Goes Wisconsin. We'll see you tomorrow.